Hey everyone, I'm Lee Dutch One.
I transmigrated from modern times to the demon-infested Great Tang of the Zhongwan era. Armed with a demon-slaying book, I became a low-level Taoist priest, slaying monsters just to survive. One day, Landlord Mang, the richest man in Shaoshan village, hired me to exorcise a demon. But the moment I stepped into the courtyard, I knew something was horribly wrong. 3 eerie coffins were lined up, a dead giveaway of a live sacrifice. Yet the old monk and the old witch put on a show, acting more professional than anyone. They mocked my young age and my weak cultivation, puffing out their chests as they crawled into their coffins one by one, putting on a grand show of casting spells. On the outside, I looked completely calm, but inside, I had already memorized every possible escape route. But the second I lay down in the final coffin, a musty, bloody stench hit me. The inside of the lid was covered in frantic, bloody claw marks. The moment the lid slammed shut, a massive boulder was rolled right on top of it. In that instant, I realized we weren't here to perform an exorcism. We were the perfect sacrificial bait to feed the demon. I immediately activated my cheat code. As the demon-slaying book began to spin, it triggered the ancestral immortal Pengzhu technique it had gifted me. I guided my heart fire and kidney water to merge inside my tank, barely squeezing out a shred of spiritual energy. But as it surged into my lower dantian, a searing pain tore through me. It felt as if a 1,000-pound boulder was blocking the way. The harder I tried, the worse the pain got. Just then, blood-curdling screams erupted outside. The old monk's facade shattered instantly. He screamed in terror, crying out that he was nothing but a fraud. But the next second, he was sucked completely dry. Old Witch didn't even last 2 seconds before she was dead, and cold, too. These two masters turned into instant cannon fodder. I was completely paralyzed with shock, but I had already prepared for this. I instantly slapped on 10 Lil Ding Yu Jia protective talismans. Shimmering starlight enveloped me, keeping me alive first and foremost. The next second, heavy footsteps stopped right in front of my coffin. The lid was slowly pushed open. A 100-year-old bat demon loomed over me, staring down with cold contempt. Its fangs were fully bared, its massive wings spread wide, and drool dripped from its mouth. It looked at me like I was just an easy feast. It lunged forward to take a massive bite, but a blinding golden light exploded, and the protective talismans blasted it flying. I rolled over and leaped straight out of the coffin. Following the first rule of being a spellcaster, it's better to strike first and force them to submit. With a flick of my wrist, I slapped a 5 lightning talisman right onto its body. Heavenly lightning crashed down with a deafening boom, blasting it on the spot until it was charred black and smoking. This bat demon was incredibly vicious. It roared, unleashing a devastating demonic sonic wave. My protective amulets shattered, one after another. Gritting my teeth, I threw 2 more 5 lightning talismans, summoning 2 bolts of heavenly lightning crashing down, blasting it straight out of the sky. Before she died, the old witch grabbed me, begging me to save the village. I promised her I would. Little did I know, she wasn't talking about Shaoshan village at all. I pursued the bat demon all the way into Landlord Wang's estate. Only then did I see the old man's true colors. He had been in league with the bat demon all along. For 3 years, he lured over 10 mages to their deaths, making a fortune from this evil monster. I stood by and watched with cold indifference, watching him get sucked dry by the bat demon, turning into a withered corpse. He brought this entirely on himself. Waiting for the bat demon to lower its guard and relax its wings, I immediately unleashed my last 2 5 lightning talismans with 2 deafening booms. The heavenly thunder struck its head, and this 100-year-old bat demon was finally slain for good. Right at that moment, the demon-slaying heavenly book in my mind burst with brilliant light. For slaying a 100-year-old bat demon, my reward was a divine spell. Ground-shrinking teleportation. 1 step spans 100 yards, crossing mountains and rivers like walking on flat ground. An absolute lifesaver of a spell, acquired just like that. My first battle after transmigrating to the Tang Dynasty as Lee Dutch One. A flawless victory. But I had no idea that this bad demon was only the beginning. An even more terrifying evil had already set its sights on me. I am Lee Dutch. Lighters. I just slayed a 100-year-old bat demon, and the demon-slaying heavenly book immediately rewarded me with a divine spell. Ground-shrinking teleportation, spanning 100 steps in a single bound. Now, I can fight, and I can escape. Talk about a massive power-up. I sliced open the bat demon on the spot and extracted its demon core. Then I searched Landlord Wang's estate and scavenged 20 tiles of gold and 30 taels of silver. Talk about striking it rich overnight. I took my loot and went to deliver the good news to the villagers. The entire village began treating me like a living deity, kneeling and bowing in reverence. I almost didn't know how to react, but I'd never in a million years expected that this Fiado was no small fry. He was actually one of the Wutan demons. For 17 years, these evil spirits had been terrorizing the countryside, and even the local government didn't dare to get involved. Back then, a Taoist priest managed to subdue 3 of them, but somehow, 2 were left behind. Besides this Fuao demon, there is still the Azure Emperor Snake Demon. He is lustful and brutal, and specifically preys on innocent women. His cultivation is 10 times more terrifying than Tuao's. I wanted to slip away right then and there. My nana was only half restored, and with barely any talismans left, How on earth was I supposed to fight him? But looking at Grandpa Village Chief's despairing eyes, and that little girl holding up half a piece of meat, begging for my help, my heart softened, and I agreed. I promise you all, I will come back to slay the snake demon. First, I had the entire village hide in the secret passage of Mount Longshao, while I spent the night frantically practicing the earth shrinking technique. Ignoring the excruciating pain in my feet, I finally managed to grasp the basics. With just one step, I could cross dozens of feet. I was moving so fast that I kept crashing into trees and walls, things smashing straight through dirt walls. Though it was incredibly embarrassing, my escape skills were now fully maxed out. Once the villagers were safe, I took off running as fast as my legs could carry me. I didn't even know where I was heading. My main strategy was simple: keep the snake demon guessing forever. But I completely underestimated that snake demon. I was in the mountains, living the good life and feasting on wild pheasants, having the absolute time of my life, when a pale, fair-faced young man in white sat down right next to me. He opened his mouth and asked, "Why did you kill my fifth brother?" Holy crap. The snake demon had tracked me down and got right in my face. Instantly, I turned on my ultimate acting skills. I pretended I was about to summon lightning.
But the very next second, I spun around and bolted.
If you can't win, run. This is the ultimate truth of Taoism. This snake demon's cultivation was unfathomably deep. The Sabai, he could take a form indistinguishable from a human and could track me across thousands of miles. He chased me so hard, my soul nearly left my body. I hid inside a cave, but he transformed into a massive 100-foot snake, ready to swallow me whole. I ran for my absolute life, my spiritual power almost completely drained. I was right on the verge of being a dead man. Suddenly, a village draped in red lanterns appeared ahead, oozing an incredibly eerie, bone-chilling aura. With a deadly snake snapping at my heels and a creepy abandoned village ahead, I gritted my teeth and dashed straight into the misty village. To my shock, the snake demon chased me to the entrance but didn't dare to step inside. He only dared to hiss his threats from the outside. "You've entered that being's domain. You're only going to die an even more brutal death." I was completely dumbfounded. What kind of terrifying entity is hidden in this god-forsaken village that even a 100-year-old snake demon dares not enter? I, Li Daoxuan, just escaped a snake demon, only to plunge straight into an even deadlier trap. My name is Li Daoxuan. I was just chased to the absolute brink of death by a snake demon and plunged straight into this creepy abandoned village shrouded in red lanterns. The moment I stepped inside, a shiver ran down my spine. The snake demon didn't dare to follow me in, which means this place is far more dangerous than that monster. The entire village was filled with red wedding lanterns, yet it was dead silent and absolutely terrifying. Suddenly, I ran into an old woman. The very first thing she did was invite me to a wedding. I tried to slip away immediately, but ran straight into a thick fog. No matter which way I went, I couldn't find my way out of the village. In the end, I was dragged by force into a late-night wedding. The courtyard was packed with people, but there wasn't a single sound. The host poured me a cup of wine. I activated my skill to take a closer look and saw that the wine was crawling with maggots. No way in hell was I going to drink that. Just as things were about to get ugly, a man named Wan Trunshen stepped forward to take the drink for me. I couldn't believe my eyes. This guy's seriously gutsy. But in the very next second, disaster struck. He screamed that he had to save the bride. The second I threatened to report them to the magistrate, every monster in the room snapped, their skin instantly rotting away. Nasty maggots crawled out of their flesh, and they all lunged forward, hungry for human flesh. Without a second thought, I immediately threw a 5 thunder talisman. Boom! Divine thunder crashed right through the roof. The Supreme Yang Thunder art is the ultimate counter for monsters, blasting them to pieces on the spot. For the kill, the demon-slaying heavenly book rewarded me with 3 months of cultivation, and my magical power skyrocketed. But there were just too many monsters. I had no choice but to grab Blongchon Shung and run for our lives. We bolted all the way into the village's ancestral hall. Inside, memorial tablets were lined up, and a heavy coffin sat in the center, oozing a spine-chilling aura. But surprisingly, the ghosts outside didn't dare to step inside. I thought we were safe, so I reached out and slapped a 5 thunder talisman right onto the coffin. But out popped a sloppy old man who had been sleeping inside it. With a quick pinch of his fingers to form a hand seal, he casually dispelled my divine thunder. I was utterly dumbfounded. A zombie that can use thunder magic. Turns out this old Taoist is named Zhang Kenyan. The first thing he did was expose me. "You don't have a master, do you?" "So who taught you the 5 thunder talisman of Mount Longhu?" I made up a story, mixing half-truths with lies. Once he heard me mention finding the corpse of a Mount Longhu senior, he believed me on the spot. He even praised me for having extraordinary spiritual talent. But his very next words made me break out in a cold sweat. I whipped my head around. "Are you blind? How can you not see the vicious ghost standing right next to us?" I stared at Wang Chengsheng, who had followed me all this way without a single complaint of being tired. It turns out, he hadn't been a living person for a long time. The one I had been dragging along to escape this whole time was actually a monster. I am Li Daoxuan. In the last episode, We were still in the middle of that terrifying encounter in the ancestral hall.
Woken up by a single sentence from Dallas Zhang.
The Wang Chunya I had risked my life to save was already dead. He wasn't a living human at all. Instead, just like everyone else in the village, he was an earthbound spirit. After dying, they have no idea they are dead. Day after day, repeating the exact day of their death. But the moment they are woken up, they will instantly turn into vicious ghosts. Their inescapable fate. With one sharp shout, the Taoist shattered the illusion and exposed the truth.
Wang Chunsan completely breaks down
All his bottled-up rage explodes.
But Taoist priest Zhang just raises a hand.
and casually whips out a black cloth to seal the spirit away.
I lean in to take a sniff.
And the stench almost knocks me cold.
It turns out to be a pot of... Man, Brother Wang, even in death, you still have to go through all this misery. I truly feel for you. Only then does Taoist priest Zhang reveal the truth about the entire village to me. Years ago, there was no plague in Li family village. It was all a death trap set by an evil cultist. He poisoned the water on purpose, tricked the villagers into holding weddings, used giant babies to feed the monsters, and then colluded with government soldiers to set a massive fire and burn down the entire village. He turned everyone into monsters.
And the eldest miss of the Chen family, who was forced into that marriage,
was born on yin year, yin month, yin day, and yin hour.
She was brutally turned into a super monster. This is the most vicious kind of monster. Once it breaks loose, not a single soul within 100 miles survives. I instantly think of the old lady who died in that bad monster incident. Turns out, she was the shaman who escaped the village back then.
What she begged me to save.
Wasn't she for Lich at all?
But Li family village. Just then, a massive surge of dark energy blots out the sky. The silver plaque starts vibrating violently. The ghost in red is about to break the seal, and the evil cultist is returning from afar to harvest his prize. The priest tells me to run, but I know this is my only chance to become a disciple of Mount Longhu and get guidance from a true master. The excruciating stomach pain caused by my cultivation flaws, the directionless confusion of having no master. Only he can save me. I declare right on the spot. We Taoist priests are meant to enforce justice on behalf of heaven. I'm staying to help you slay this demon. Priest Zhang bursts into laughter, revealing his name. Zhang Sheyan. He even hands me a life-saving jade amulet, warning me to watch out for two ruthless figures. One is the bride's father, Lord Chen, who has become a powerful ghost. The other is an old woman in bizarre clothes, a sentry monster bred by the evil cultist. We immediately rush toward the Chen family courtyard, but what I see there completely freezes me in my tracks. The ghost in red has shattered her seal, her devastating energy exploding across the sky. That rogue evil cultist actually wanted to refine him into a demon king, right when he was about to capture the bride in red. Master Zhang stepped in, grabbing a stone lion and smashing the jar to pieces. The evil cultist flew into a rage, shaking his bell to summon 100 monsters to tear us apart. Just as I was about to unleash my 5 thunder talisman, Master Zhang smiled faintly and said, "Watch closely. I will show you the true power of thunder magic. Let the wind rise. Let the clouds gather. Let the thunder strike." Dozens of arm-thick bolts of blue, heavenly lightning crash down with a deafening roar. This is the true legacy of Mount Longhu. The sacred divine firmament 5 thunders law. Instantly, the horde of monsters disintegrated into ash. The evil cultist was scared out of his mind, falling to his knees right then and there. The sacred divine firmament 5 thunders law? Which Grand Master of Mount Longhu are you? Standing behind Master Zhang, I was completely spellbound. This is the true cultivation path I want to follow. This is the master I want to pay respects to. And next, we will join forces to end this deadly game that has been brewing for over a decade.
I'm Li Daswan.
In the last episode, I was still watching my master, Zhang Cheiyang, act all cool. But then, the old geezer dumped me to chase after the evil cultist. He just casually threw me an immobilization talisman to freeze that furious red-clothed ghost in place, and left me to clean up his mess. Seriously? But then it hit me. Isn't this basically gifting me a bunch of monsters to farm and level up? All that was left in front of me was the half-dead old Master Chen, looking incredibly pathetic and panicked. I slapped a 5 thunder talisman right onto his face. With a deafening boom, the monster's soul was utterly blasted to pieces. The next second, the demon slaying book materialized. For slaying the fierce ghost, rewarded with a 2nd grade 5 thunder talisman. In an instant, my mind was flooded with memories of talisman strokes and insights. My mastery of the Thunder Talisman immediately shot through the roof. The power of this 2nd grade talisman was easily double what it was before. Now that is what I call a massive upgrade. But when I turned around and looked at the ghost bride in red, my heart nearly stopped. Her red veil was slightly lifted, and a dangerously sweet scent wafted through the air. Completely spellbound, I reached out, wanting to lift her veil. Thankfully, I had already activated 9 protective talismans on myself earlier. A sudden burst of golden light flashed, instantly snapping me back to reality. That was close. I was almost dragged to hell right then and there by that bride in red. But before I could even catch my breath, that old woman, wearing a burial shroud, showed up. A 100-host robe on his body is way too vicious. Even when heavenly thunder strikes, the robe absorbs all the damage.
My first grade 5 thunder talismans can even scratch him.
Right then, I made the boldest decision of my life. I hoisted the red-cloaked ghost bride onto my shoulders. If I run and abandon her, letting that evil Taoist harvest his prize, I'll be a dead man for sure. Clutching this frozen beauty, I ran like crazy all the way back to the ancestral hall.
Inside were all the ancestral spirits of the Li family village.
With a single shout, I woke them all up. The evil Taoist is coming to steal the bride in red. Do you want your descendants to die in vain?
The next second, dozens of white-haired ancestral spirits materialized.
They bowed to me in unison. Even knowing their souls would be completely shattered, they stood at the entrance of the ancestral hall without a single hesitation. Hearing their spirit tablets shattering one by one outside, my eyes turned blood red, and I bit open my index finger, using my blood as ink. Rest assured, elders, I, Lai Doshan, will slay this evil ghost. I will draw 5 talismans right now. 5 second grade 5 thunder talismans, completed in a single breath. The old hag kicked the door open and burst in. A 100-host robe was still incredibly arrogant. First, I threw 3 first-grade talismans to numb her senses, making her think that this was all I could do. Once she got closer, I unleashed a second-grade 5 thunder talisman. A bolt of lightning as thick as an arm struck, paralyzing her on the spot. I rushed forward and slapped 4 more second-grade talismans onto her. But she suddenly grabbed my wrist with a death grip. At that life-or-death moment, protective jade amulet my master gave me exploded, saving my life. I leaped back 20 paces, formed the thunder seal, and roared out the 5 thunder spell. By order of the 5 thunders, heed my command. 4 bolts of heavenly thunder boomed simultaneously, turning the entire world stark white. A 100-host robe was ripped to shreds, and the old hag's soul was utterly annihilated.
Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, my master sensed the heavenly thunder.
He was completely dumbfounded.
A second grade 5 thunder talisman?
Is that kid a freak? The freck. It took me 10 whole years to learn that. He literally rode the wind and tore through the sky in a flash of golden light to save her. It was absolutely breathtaking. My apprentice better not actually go and get himself killed. I stood before the shattered ancestral plaques, scattered across the floor, and bowed deeply.
Today, Lai Dashwan will paint talismans with my own blood.
And shake the heavens with thunder to appease the spirits of my entire village.
But I had no idea that the bride in red, resting in my arms, was just about to open her eyes.
I am Li Daswan.
I just used my own blood to activate 4 second grade 5 thunder talismans and slay the ghost in white.
My mana was completely depleted, and I collapsed to the ground. In my daze, I saw the ancestral spirits of Li Village
Bow to me in gratitude before fading away completely.
The demon-slaying heavenly book suddenly lit up. In May of the early Jumwan era, for slaying a fierce ghost in Li Village, reward granted, high-grade magical weapon, the ancient sword Yukon. This Yuchang sword is one of the 10 legendary swords of the spring and autumn period. It is brimming with malevolent energy, specifically crafted to vanquish evil, making it the ultimate weapon for pure offense.
I suppressed my excitement and chose not to summon it just yet.
Planning to keep it as my ultimate trump card. But I had no idea that behind me, the bride in red had already quietly broken free. Her bridal dress was soaked in blood, melting away the freezing talisman. Her red veil fluttered down and landed right on my head. Just as I was about to curse, a bone-chilling cold washed over me. A hand instantly pierced right through my chest, breaking my heart. At that critical moment,
Shlai Seiken Ghost, Jade my master, Zhan Qinyang, gave me unleashed his substitution power.
allowing me to teleport away and escape with my life. But the fierce ghost in red bound me with her long hair, her spectral claws lunging straight for my eyes. Without hesitation, I summoned the Yuchen sword from the book and slashed forward. The sword unleashed a torrent of malevolent energy, severing her ghost hair in a single strike and blasting her back.
But she immediately unleashed a sea of blood illusion, swallowing me whole.
Suffocating within the illusion, I began to lose consciousness, my heart filled with bitter regret.
I haven't even achieved immortality yet.
Am I really going to die without ever seeing what the bride in red actually looks like? Right then, my master's furious roar echoed out. Tai Yi Tangang sword. Slay in all 8 directions, execute demons and kill ghosts. String to Pingyang, swift as a decree. Strike. When I opened my eyes again, we were at the peak of a desolate mountain, and my master was casually playing with my Yukang sword. He told me he had defeated the bride in red and sealed her inside his pouch. I get master to save this poor wretched woman rather than slay her. Hearing my words, master's eyes filled with deep approval. Then, out of nowhere, he asked if I wanted to walk the path of cultivation. I nodded instantly, without a single second of hesitation. My heart was pounding with absolute joy. This was the exact opportunity I had been desperately waiting for. Tell me then, Why do you wish to cultivate? Master was asking for my true purpose in pursuing the Tao. I threw away all the fancy, high-sounding words and spoke my absolute truth. Only for immortality. At first, Master mocked me for my shameless arrogance. But then, he nodded, respecting my raw honesty and strength of character. He told me that if he were to take me as his disciple, I must always keep my word. I had to go back and slay the snake demon to fulfill my oath. To the villagers of Shaosha, he even casually pocketed my bat demon core and 3 ingots of gold, claiming it was to keep me out of danger. Then, riding the wind, he soared away, telling me to find him in Jinyang Temple once the demon was dead. 3 days later, I arrived at Hanti village and met a woman who had been tormented by the snake demon. She was enduring endless gossip and cruel rumors from the villagers, and was on the verge of throwing herself off a cliff to end it all. With a single glance, I saw she was heavily corrupted by demonic chi, with snake scales already forming on her skin. I immediately used a Liege and protective talisman to cleanse the demonic energy. The woman fell to her knees in tears, thanking me. I learned that she was indeed the victim who had been tormented by the snake demon of the Wutan Temple. So, together, we laid a trap to lure the beast out. She would feign submission to the snake demon, using herself as the bait. Once the trap was sprung, she would burn a talisman to send me a signal. With tears streaming down her face, she agreed, swearing she would end her nightmare with that monster once and for all. As for me, I had made every single preparation. Tonight will be the final hour of that green-clad snake demon. Item Lai Chuan. In our previous episode, the victimized woman and I set a trap. Tonight is the moment we slay that green-clad snake demon.
As night fell,
The snake demon, right on cue, disguised himself as a fair-faced young scholar and slipped into the woman's home. Just as we planned, she pretended to submit, putting on her red bridal makeup and serving up fine wine. The beast was completely enchanted, utterly losing his head. Blind with arrogance and pleasure, the snake demon gulped down the Realgar wine in one big draft. The very next second, his face twisted in horror as he instantly reverted to his true, monstrous form. A massive, 100-foot-long, greenish-black serpent, with horns actually growing from its head. Without wasting a single breath, I kicked the door wide open and charged inside. I threw myself in front of the lady, shielding her. The Realgar completely suppressed the snake demon's magic. When it tried to bite me, the 20 protective talismans on my body erupted with a blinding golden light, blasting it back. I whipped out my long sword and thrust it straight through its hideous snake face, leaving it heavily wounded and fleeing for its life. But I never expected a sudden torrential rain to pour down. Using the rainwater to its advantage, the snake demon's speed skyrocketed, shaking me off completely and escaping into the Wutan Temple on Lunshe Mountain. By the time I caught up, I was so angry I almost laughed. This snake demon had actually turned into a little white fox to play victim in front of a group of scholars heading to the capital for their exams. And it even stole my fish. Those scholars immediately took me for a fraud and started lecturing me, even shoving me out the door. Stop talking nonsense, you priest. Stop your wild talk and get out of here. Go, go! I saw right through it. That was no white fox. It was clearly the snake demon in disguise. But I didn't bother arguing with them. I just turned around and walked away. If these people refused to listen to my warning, we were bound to suffer sooner or later. Sure enough, early the next morning, the snake demon revealed its true, monstrous form. It brutally tortured and murdered the scholar's cousin and slaughtered all of their guards. Terrified, the scholar fell to his knees, begging for mercy. But the demon swallowed everyone whole in a single gulp. Did it really think it was safe now? With its magic fully restored, it even wanted to come back and seek revenge on me. But it had no idea that I had already spiked those people's water with Realgar. By devouring them, it was essentially swallowing the Realgar right into its own stomach. Just as the snake demon was gloating, a sharp, agonizing pain ripped through its stomach. It collapsed, thrashing and rolling on the ground in agony. I stood at the top of the mountain, looking down at it coldly. You swallowed humans, but what you actually digested was Realgar. Today, you will surely die. Only then did the snake demon realize it had fallen right into my trap. It roared in fury, cursing me for being despicable. I found it laughable. You terrorized innocent villagers and slaughtered the helpless. Oh, so now you're calling me despicable. Look at yourself first. Today, I, Lai Doxwan, am going to end you, you vile beast. I used Realgar to trap this snake demon, leaving him completely paralyzed. Today is the day he dies. I slapped the 5 thunder talismans right onto his bloated body. And yet this monster still had the nerve to threaten me. You can't kill me. Do you have any idea who I am? I sneered. I don't care who the hell you are, even if you're the son of the Dragon King. Today, you die. 5 bolts of second-grade heavenly thunder crashed down, tearing the snake demon's flesh to shreds. But fearing he might be playing dead, I picked up my Yuchang sword, stabbed him wildly, and drove it straight through his skull, ending him once and for all. The next second, the demon-slaying heavenly book inside my mind lit up with a brilliant glow. Slayed a snake demon with the bloodline of the ancient black dragon. Reward: immortal treasure. The Three Realms Gourd. I was completely blown away. An immortal treasure, and it's the legendary artifact that Iron Crutch Lee used to attain enlightenment. Even though it's damaged and only has its storage capability left,
Its internal space is practically infinite.
it can absorb fire, release water, and change its size at will. It looks dark, plain, and low-key, but when activated, it radiates a majestic immortal mist. I claimed ownership on the spot and hid it at my waist. From now on, I'm a man with an immortal treasure, with the snake demon taken care of. I rushed back to Longshow Mountain to find the villagers. I wanted to share the good news, but the moment I arrived, disaster struck.
A young boy had been swallowed by a fish demon in the deep pool.
The villagers were absolutely terrified, thinking the snake demon had come back for revenge. But then, they saw me dropping down from the sky, dragging the massive corpse of the snake demon. Right then and there, they fell to their knees, calling me Immortal Lee, just as I announced that the snake demon had been brought to justice. Old Grandma Zhang fell to her knees, weeping and begging me to save her grandson.
In the past, there was no way I dared jump into that deep water.
But now I have the Three Realms Gourd. I summoned the Immortal Gourd and yelled, "Absorb." In an instant, the entire deep pool was sucked completely dry. The fish demon was left completely exposed, flopping around in the mud. Then I yelled, "Burn," and the Immortal Gourd spewed warring flames, roasting the fish demon until it was completely cooked and helpless. The villagers cut open the fish's belly and pulled the child out. I used a protective talisman along with some CPR, dragging him right back from the brink of death. Filled with gratitude, the villagers scraped together dozens of copper coins for me. I only took a single copper coin, which touched the villagers deeply, earning me a bit of cultivation. For slaying the fish demon, I was rewarded with 1 year of cultivation. My magical power instantly doubled, but I had only been celebrating for 2 seconds when a sharp, knife-like pain shot through my lower abdomen. The hidden side effects of my cultivation had finally caught up with me. I didn't dare waste a single second, rushing straight to Xinjiang County to find my master, Zhang Chenyang. But the moment I asked around about Xinjiang Gao's temple, everyone's faces went pale with terror, and they refused to say a single word. After a great deal of trouble, I finally tracked down the location. Only then did I realize why this was known as the most sinister place in the entire county. An entire street was filled with burial shrouds and endless rows of coffins. But when the temple gates finally creaked open, I gasped in sheer horror. Right there in the middle of the courtyard sat a stitched-up male corpse, and right next to it was a pitch-black coffin. What kind of godforsaken place is my master living in? I am Li Doxlin. I pushed open the gates, then Gen Temple, only to be scared completely out of my wits. A stitched-up corpse was laid out stiffly in the middle of the courtyard, but right next to it was a coffin. I almost turned around and bolted, but suddenly, the coffin lid began to move. My master, Zhang Kenyang, sat up with a massive yawn. He was actually using a coffin as his bed, and to top it off, he was running a corpse-stitching business on the side. My mind went completely blank, but my master just stood there, looking incredibly proud of himself. He thought I'd come begging for his help because I couldn't handle the snake demon. I cleared my throat and spoke with casual indifference. I've already killed that snake demon. Hearing this, my master instantly spat out his mouthful of tea. Cuffined so hard, he accidentally plucked out a few hairs from his beard. I slammed the carcass of the snake demon right onto the ground. The moment his eyes fell upon the dragon horns on its head, he was utterly dumbstruck. This creature actually possesses the bloodline of the ancient black dragon. My master then told me, now that the gods and Buddhas have vanished from the world, and divine dragons are completely extinct, you don't need to worry about any of its dragonkin coming to seek revenge. I knelt on the spot, offered him a cup of tea, and officially became a disciple of Mount Longhu. I was now a 9th-generation true disciple of Mount Longhu, with the Taoist title, Taoist Taichung. After the initiation ceremony, my master finally revealed the true cause of the excruciating pain I felt during cultivation. Without achieving the state of fasting, you forced yourself to cultivate magic, causing a violent clash between the pure and impure energies inside your body. If you keep going, your body will literally rupture, and you will die. He had me swallow Mount Longhu's secretly crafted fasting pill, granting me 7 days of no hunger, to expel the turbid energies and elevate the... My master also explained all 4 realms of cultivation to me. Cultivation is divided into 4 major realms. The first realm is fasting, which requires unblocking the 3 dantians. The second realm is the yin spirit, where the soul wanders the night. The third realm is the yang spirit, and the fourth realm is ascension, braving the heavenly tribulation to become an immortal on earth. Only then can one achieve true immortality. Yet here I am, unable to even cross the threshold of early stage fasting. From that day on, I threw myself into a brutal, hellish training routine, waking up to recite scriptures and hold the horse dance, balancing an incense burner on my head to welcome the dawn, and climbing onto the rooftop at 5 in the morning, all to practice the true inheritance of Mount Longhu, the purple chi nourishing method, bathing in the violet mist of the sunrise, purifying my body and cleansing my marrow. I underwent a complete rebirth before training in basic swordplay. I studied scriptures, drew talismans, and learned how to vanquish demons. The days were grueling, but rewarding, and my power grew by leaps and bounds. After half a month, without relying on the demon-vanquishing heavenly book,
I successfully drew my very first immobilization talisman with my own hands.
When my master returned, he was exhausted, yet his face was written with smug satisfaction. He had refined a demon core for me, making it into a dragon tiger golden elixir. Swallowing it would grant me 10 years of cultivation and let me break through my bottleneck instantly. He also handed me a green oil paper umbrella, whispering mysteriously that it was a priceless treasure. Skeptical, I slowly opened the umbrella. In the next second, a bone-chilling cold swept over me. My hair stood on end, and my skin went tight with goosebumps. I stiffly turned my head and saw that all too familiar, blood-red bridal gown. My master had actually sealed the vengeful spirit in red inside the umbrella and gifted her to me.
In the last episode, I opened the oil paper umbrella my master gave me,
And finally, saw the vengeful spirit's true face. She was as breathtakingly beautiful as an ice sculpture, but radiated a bone-chilling cold.
Her name, it turned out, was Chen Xiu. My master said she was poisoned mute by her stepmother when she was only 7 years old.
Her entire life was filled with misery, leaving her with an overwhelming monstrous resentment. My heart softened, so I took her back to my room. From then on, I had a silent guardian in red by my side.
But our good days didn't last long.
The temple went completely bankrupt. My master had squandered every single piece of our gold, forced to go out, hustle for clients, and hunt down demons just to make some cash. I had no choice but to hold up an oil paper umbrella and take Chen Ziyu out with me to work.
Everyone on the street was staring at us, like we were crazy.
I mean, her carries an umbrella in broad daylight. Plus, she was literally radiating a freezing cold draft. Then, I noticed my gorgeous ghost companion secretly eyeing a cart of candied haws. So, I bought a skewer and handed it to her. Without even opening her mouth, she just sucked the spiritual essence right out of it. At that moment, I realized this lady in red wasn't actually that scary after all. But just as I was stressing over how to find clients, she suddenly dragged me over and stopped right in front of the Huang estate, the home of Xinjiang County's wealthiest merchant.
I activated my spiritual sight to take a look.
But the place looked squeaky clean. Nothing suspicious at all. But the ghost lady used a drop of her blood to write 2 words on the ground. There's a ghost. The moment I knocked on the door, the sounds of a Moshan Taoist performing an exorcism echoed from inside. The next second, the ritual tools shattered to pieces, followed by blood-curdling screams.
What's even more terrifying is
the 2 stone lions at the entrance were crying tears of blood.
this is an omen of extreme evil.
The ghostly entity inside can no longer be suppressed.
I rushed in to expose that charlatan,
pointing out that he hadn't actually subdued the evil spirit at all and was just scamming them for money. But the old fraud turned the tables on me, claiming that I was the one trying to sabotage his ritual. When the Huan family's servants heard that I was just there to cause trouble, they immediately dismissed me as a scammer and kicked me out. I could only smile bitterly. As they say, Buddha only saves those who are destined. If they won't believe me, so be it.
The ghost sister was so furious she wanted to slaughter them all right then and there.
I quickly held her back. No, Master will literally kill me.
We ran back to the temple.
My master was chewing on a chicken leg and sipping some liquor.
And even he mocked me for not making a single penny.
I was so mad I swore on the spot that I'd go back out to the streets tomorrow and make a fortune. After all, there's no way in hell I'd ever sell my Dragon Tiger Golden Elixir or the Snake Demon's Inner Elixir. But little did I know, the entity haunting the Fuang estate was far more terrifying than I could have ever imagined. I'm Li Daswan. Yesterday I was kicked out of the Huang estate like some cheap con artist, but early this morning, Master Huang came bursting into my temple, crying his eyes out and begging for help. The Moshan Taoist and the apprentice who guarded the tassels were both dead. Even his 3 concubines had been brutally strangled. And sure enough, the moment the beast showed up, I quoted my price on the spot. 100 taels of silver for the deposit. And upon completion, 100 toils of gold. With my oiled pepper umbrella and gorgeous spirit companion in tow, I headed straight for the abandoned estate. Taking a closer look, they were covered in dark, bruised handprints. The dark energy in the air was suffocating. I realized the first madame only survives because of a Goanian jade pendant protecting her, but her eyes were shifty, clearly hiding a dark secret. I reassured her and managed to drive back the monster when it suddenly appeared.
But even my summoned lightning missed its mark.
The beast actually vanished into thin air. I quickly summoned my gorgeous spirit companion. Her long hair drifted around her as she told me she could sense its presence, but couldn't locate it. I knew right away. If it could evade her senses, this was definitely no ordinary vengeful spirit. At nightfall, I stayed in the empty house alone, pretending to sleep to lure the beast out of hiding. Instead, I headed straight for the first Madama's bedroom. Opening a hidden compartment under her bed, a cold sweat broke out across my forehead. Inside, there was a strange, unrecognizable object, alongside the first Madama's personal garments. It made no sense whatsoever. Suddenly, the truth hit me. The maidservant didn't steal anything at all. It was the first madame who had murdered her first. Little Kui died with a bitter grievance and transformed into a relentless mirror, monster. These mirror monsters can hide inside any reflective surface,
making them nearly immune to normal attacks and incredibly elusive.
Just as I figured it out, the monster hung upside down from the ceiling, staring straight at me.
I slashed my sword, cutting through its long hair, and gave chase.
I dived headfirst into a bronze mirror.
I let out a cold laugh,
and thrust my sword forward,
only for a hand to shoot out from the mirror, grabbing my wrist,
and dragging me straight into the mirror world. Just as I was trapped inside, hanging on by a thread,
the green oiled paper umbrella slowly drifted open,
and my gorgeous companion burst through the void to save me. Dark energy erupts into the sky.
沾着油是血.
The mirror ghost is scared out of its wits. It tries to flee, but its throat is choked tight by 3,000 strands of long black hair. Its eyes and all 7 facial orifices are completely sealed shut by black hair. It can't even let out a single scream. Once Sister Yu takes action, not a single monster remains for 100 miles. When I broke free from the mirror ghost was already scared out of its wits. I look at the silent Sister Yu beside me,
with only one thought in my mind. With Sister Yu by my side,
my sense of security is absolutely through the roof, and the injustice at the Huang Mansion is finally laid to rest. In the last episode, Li Doxron, was dragged into the mirror world by the mirror ghost. Fortunately, Sister Yu stepped in to save me, but she didn't kill the mirror ghost. Instead, she held my hand and showed me the most heartbreaking truth. This mirror ghost isn't the maid, Xiaokui, at all. It's actually Master Huang's own daughter. Here, her mother was murdered by the current first wife, using the forbidden Yansing curse magic. She herself was born mentally slow, yet she was relentlessly abused by her stepmother. In the freezing depth of winter, she was kicked out of the house, ultimately froze, and starved to death. Right before she died, she stared at her reflection in the lake, remembering her mother's words. Mother is in the mirror. Sister Yu was just like her, equally lonely and helpless, and equally victimized. That's why she couldn't bring herself to destroy her. Looking into Huaye's hollow eyes, couldn't bring myself to do it either. I raised my hand and summoned heavenly lightning, not to strike her, but to purge her of her resentment. The next day, Master Huang came with 300 tiles of gold to thank me, trying to use the money to shut my mouth. But the first wife was even more vicious. On one hand, she promised to renovate my Taoist temple, while on the other, she threatened me with her cousin, an assistant minister of the imperial court. I threw down the curse doll covered in silver needles. You murdered his first wife. And abused his own daughter. Did you really think I was blind? Master Huang broke down on the spot, but only dared to sigh. After all, 300 toils of gold weighed far heavier to him than his own daughter's life. I turned and stepped aside. Sister Yu walked out, pushing Frere forward. Every bloody footprint they left behind was absolutely bone-chilling. With a single yank, the gorgeous ghost bride shattered the first Madame Slickered Guanyin amulet.
A ghost! Stay away from me! Get away!
She lunged forward, using the golden hairpin left by her late mother, to finally avenge her blood-soaked past. But the moment her vengeance was complete, whereas spiritual form began to fade away, she had absolutely nothing left holding her to this world. I sat down cross-legged, chanted the sacred scripture of salvation at the top of my lungs. I poured every last drop of my spiritual power into guiding her soul to the afterlife. The gorgeous ghost bride extended her long hair, channeling her own yin energy to stabilize Hu Here one last time. In her final moments, Hu Here regained her sense and gave me the most radiant, beautiful smile. Then, her soul dissolved into starlight and quietly vanished, leaving behind only a small, delicate bronze mirror. The gorgeous ghost bride picked up the mirror and handed it to me. On her crimson wedding dress, 6 words appeared written in blood. She wanted you to have this. I stood there, completely stunned. This ice-cold, aloof ghost bride
Was actually thanking me.
As for those 300 taels of gold, I snatched them up without a second thought. Old man Huang dropped them himself. Finders keepers, you can't call that greed. I had the gorgeous ghost bride cast an illusion on the servants to cover up what really happened, just to keep the authorities from sniffing around. After all, my master warned me that the Great Tang has the secret police and the Spirit Bureau, and they are crawling with powerful cultivators. It's always better to play it safe. With Huaye's bronze mirror in hand, and 300 taels of gold stuffed in my pockets, the gorgeous ghost bride and I finally headed home. This Oyamashin case was a total win. I got the cash, I delivered justice, and I even got the gorgeous ghost bride to finally open up to me. But I had no idea what dark secrets were hidden inside this seemingly ordinary bronze mirror.
I'm Li Daxuan. Right after wrapping up that crazy business at the Wang Mansion,
I took the 300 tiles of gold, along with the small bronze mirror Hoyer left behind, and headed back to Xinyan Temple with the gorgeous ghost bride. But on the way back, I was sweating bullets. After all, I had basically let the gorgeous ghost bride help Hera take her bloody revenge. I was sure my master would chew me out for it, but to my surprise, he already knew everything that went down. Not only did he not scold me, but he actually praised me for being decisive and ruthless. He said my fiery temper is exactly how he was in his youth. And the best surprise was still to come. Master used a massive personal favor to send Huir's soul straight to Lady Chingy, and not to seal her away, but to give her a second chance at life.
She didn't actually destroy her.
Instead, she helped Huir safely reincarnate.
That was when I finally realized who the Lady in Green really was. She was a powerful spirit who had lived for nearly 1,000 years.
Back during the chaotic era of the 5 barbarians, hordes of ghosts ran rampant, thinking for fit at civilians. It was the Lady in Green who stepped in to quell the chaos.
She even created the Azure Realm, which, alongside the empty-bellied Ghost King and the old Black Mountain Demon, formed a 3-way standoff to divide the underworld.
Master, look at this bronze mirror. I quickly showed my master the small bronze mirror that Weir had left behind. I never expected this ordinary-looking mirror to actually be a top-tier magic treasure. The demon-revealing mirror? It was brimming with spiritual energy, especially made to reveal the true forms of demons and monsters.
And it can even shoot out golden light to strike down enemies.
Filled with curiosity,
I decided to test the mirror on the oil paper umbrella.
after all, the beautiful ghost was still hiding inside it.
To my surprise, the mirror immediately revealed her figure. I was instantly mortified and quickly tried to explain myself.
I was just testing it out on a whim. I really didn't mean anything.
Seeing for flustered, Master sighed and reminded me that no matter how good a treasure is,
It's nothing compared to having a solid foundation of your own cultivation.
he also told me that the impurities in my body had been completely purged, and I was finally ready to take the Dragon Tiger Elixir. Now don't underestimate this Dragon Tiger Elixir.
It's a legendary pill that even Emperor Taisung of Tang, Li Shimin, begs for, but could never get. Once consumed, it immediately boosts your cultivation by 10 years.
Most importantly, it would help me break through my lower Dantan
And smoothly enter the early stage of the fasting realm.
That night, I took a bath, changed my clothes, and sat cross-legged on a futon in the temple.
I carefully swallowed the Dragon Tiger Elixir.
A moment later,
My lower abdomen felt as if it were holding a burning furnace, and a scorching pain shot through my meridians.
fortunately, Master was by my side the entire time, guarding my cultivation. With the surge of the elixir's power, my spiritual energy began to skyrocket.
I quickly focused my mind,
Guiding the energy to repeatedly strike at the haunting pass.
After 2 attempts, I finally managed to break through and unlock my lower dantian.
But just as I was secretly celebrating, thinking I'd made it, visions of gorgeous, seductive women suddenly flooded my mind. The illusions clung to me, suffocating me, trapping me in their grip. I was on the very brink of losing my mind and destroying my soul.
At that critical moment, my master's thunderous roar echoed in my head.
I snapped out of it instantly, narrowly avoiding a total disaster. When I finally opened my eyes again, I had successfully reached the early stage of Big U cultivation.
A boundless stream of vital energy surged through my body.
Leaving me so full of life that you'd never guess I just survived such a brutal breakthrough. Over the next 10 days,
I stayed at the temple every day, reciting Taoist scriptures to calm my mind and stabilize my newly elevated power. Whenever I went out to the streets,
the local townspeople treated me with more and more respect.
even the magistrate of Xindiao County personally delivered a commemorative plaque to our Zhendiao temple.
Then one day,
As I sat in the temple courtyard reading the Da Di Ching, Sister Yu's eyes suddenly narrowed,
and she looked up toward the treetops. I followed her gaze
and saw a plump little sparrow resting there.
Looking closer, I realized
This was actually a messenger sent by Lady Qingyi. It turned out that Lady Qingyi was hosting a grand banquet in Yushang City, 300 li away.
and she had sent a special invitation to my master. But Master wanted me to go in his place. He even handed me over a dozen jars containing wandering spirits, asking me to deliver these souls to the lady's temple in Yushang City.
She was originally the daughter of a provincial governor in the early Han Dynasty. Before I set off, Master shared the legend of Lady Qingyi with me.
She was originally the daughter of a provincial governor in the early Han Dynasty.
Back then, her homeland was struck by a devastating disaster. To save her people, she chose to sacrifice herself by burning alive to ward off the calamity.
Deeply moved by her ultimate sacrifice, the common people built a temple to worship her.
Since then, the incense offerings have burned without end for 1,000 years.
I quickly packed my bags, brought Sister Yu along, and my 3 realms gourd, and set off on the road to Yushang City. This would be my very first time meeting a legendary ghost immortal face to face.
Little did I know, this seemingly ordinary banquet was hiding a dark, deadly secret.
My name is Li Daxwen.
Carrying the soul urn my master entrusted to me, I was traveling through the night with Yuji to Yushang City to attend my aunt's late-night banquet. The moment we entered Kuiwei Mountain,
We ran into an old woodcutter.
he warned us that the mountain paths weren't safe at night.
Several people had died, mysterious, horrific deaths.
Their eyes were bulging out of their sockets, as if they'd run into some evil spirit.
But hey, they picked the wrong guy to mess with. An exorcist like me hasn't had a job in ages. Sure enough, the moment the sky went dark,
A ghastly figure drifted toward us. A hunched, dark shadow blocked the middle of the road, its back turned to me.
when it spun around, It had a pointy snout and silken cheeks, with yellow fur covering its entire face. It was actually a weasel spirit that had cultivated human form. It stared at me with a creepy, sinister grin and asked, "Do I look like a god to you?" I burst out laughing, right then and there. This was the classic dead-end trap. My master warned me about this long ago. When a weasel spirit asks you if it looks like a god, no matter how you answer, you're dead. For a bloodthirsty demon like this, the only answer is death. I spat back. "You look like a pile of dog crap to me."
The weasel spirit flew into a violent rage instantly.
It bared its true monstrous form and lunged straight at me.
I whipped out my demon-revealing mirror, blasted it with a beam of golden light, and sent it flying, coughing up blood on the spot. I even forced it to spit out its demon core. But the weasel spirit unleashed a sudden, terrifying wave of demonic energy. It broke free from Yuzi's hair-binding trap and fled in a frenzy. Luckily, Yuzi locked onto its scent. I pulled out a straw voodoo doll and picked up some of the yellow fur it had shed. Having unlocked the ancient immortal Pengju's breathing technique and reached the peak of meditation, now, just one day of my cultivation is worth 10 days of progress, and my comprehension speed has doubled. But by the time Yuji and I tracked down the weasel spirit's body, it had already been dripped open, its belly sliced clean. Its demon core had been stolen, leaving behind 2 sets of footprints on the ground, one wide, one narrow. One look, and I knew they were Taoist cultivators. I followed their footprints and sure enough, cornered them. An old Taoist and a young one. They were holding sword pellets in their hands. Just a surge of spiritual energy, and those pellets instantly transformed into lethal swords. They were actually orthodox Taoist sword cultivators. They even knew the art of the flying sword. But that fat Taoist had the nerve to flip the script on me. He claimed that treasures belong to whoever is destined to find them. He even demanded that I show some respect and bow to my elders. What absolute shameless bastards. With a flick of his fingers, the crimson flying sword shot toward me like a bolt of lightning. The sword chai sliced clean through massive trees and shattered giant boulders into dust. Its power was absolutely terrifying. I barely managed to dodge, frantically using my earth shrinking technique. My clothes were ripped to shreds in the process. Thank God I'd put on a protection talisman beforehand. The golden barrier shielded my body, taking the direct hit from his flying sword. Since we can't settle this with words, then we'll let our blades do the talking. Hewitt. I grabbed an immobilization talisman, muttered the incantation, and in a flash of golden light, slammed it right onto the fat Taoist's forehead. Instantly, his flying sword spun out of control and clattered to the ground. Now, it's my turn to strike. I drew my Yuchang sword, my killing intent exploding. These 2 thieving bastards, neither of them is getting away today. I'm Li Datswan. In the last episode, I had just cornered those 2 thieving Taoists with the immobilization talisman slapped right onto the fat Taoist's head. His flying sword instantly spun out of control and crashed to the ground. Then lunged forward, thrusting my sword seeked for his chest. The strike was incredibly fast and brutal, leaving him absolutely no room to escape. Once you start a fight, you must finish them off, or they'll come back for revenge. You either don't do it at all, or you finish the job completely. But out of nowhere, the young Taoist rushed forward, blocking my Yucheng sword with his own black blade. Sparks flew as our steel clashed, forcing the kid back step by step. My arm is completely numb, but little does he know, I've been cultivating the purple chi art and tempering my body with the Lucian technique. I'm far beyond any ordinary cultivator. I swing my sword and launch a fierce attack, thrusting straight, sweeping across, and slashing down. The young Taoist is forced back, step by step. An impact splits his hand open, and his precious sword is covered in deep scratches from my Yukang sword. But his sword play is incredible. I won't be able to take him down anytime soon. Just then, the immobilization talisman on the fat Taoist's forehead begins to tremble. It looks like his spiritual power is about to blow it right off, channeling every ounce of strength in my body. I deliver a fierce, knocking the young Taoist's sword right out of his hand. He's forced to retreat completely. I don't waste any time on him. I raise my sword and charge straight at the fat Taoist. They thrust my blade forward, but he manages to dodge the fatal blow. The blade only pierces his shoulder. Fresh blood instantly splatters onto the immobilization talisman. It falls to the ground, completely useless. The fat Taoist glares at me, eyes wide with fury. He hurls a massive punch right at me. The sheer force of his fist triggers a sonic boom, packed with terrifying power. I'm sent flying by the blow, crashing hard into a massive boulder. Spiderweb cracks instantly ripple across the giant rock. Thank goodness my protective amulet lights up, absorbing most of the devastating impact. I cough violently, barely managing to drag myself back up. Is this the sheer power of the mid-stage Bigua realm? It's absolutely terrifying. Master always said that in the mid-stage of the Bigua realm, the Crimson Palace opens up, and one's vital energy surges like a torrent. He wasn't lying. A single punch like that could easily kill a tiger. The fat Taoist summons his flying sword once again. The blade erupts, transforming into a fiery dragon. It looks like he's going all out to kill me, but instead of panicking, I smile. because I'm already one step ahead.
When I was sent flying earlier, I secretly planted a 5 Thunder's talisman right on him.
I activated the heavenly thunder wings, silently chanting the spell under my breath. Out of nowhere, dark clouds gathered in the sky, and a bolt of azure lightning crashed down. Only then did the fat Taoist recognize what it was. It was the 5 thunder magic of Longhu Mountain.
His face went completely pale.
Clearly terrified of Longhu Mountain's fearsome reputation. In a panic, he quickly redirected his flying sword to block the lightning. The lightning and the sword energy collided with a deafening roar.
Debris rained down everywhere, and dust filled the air. As the smoke cleared,
his flying sword plummeted to the ground right in front of me,
the blade but dull and lifeless,
covered in scorched black burn marks. I quickly activated my 3-realm snatching hand to grab it. After all, this flying sword was a genuine magic treasure, worth way more than some yellow weasel's inner core.
Give my precious sword back to me.
The fat Taoist was driven to absolute madness, screaming at me to return his sword.
I grinned and replied,
Treasures belong to whoever is destined to have them. Hilariously, he was the very one who had just taught me that line.
He was so furious he nearly spat blood.
He whipped out a jade sword amulet, threatening to crush it. He snarled that it held the sword intent of the Wansho Palace's patriarch, and it would obliterate me in one single.
Instantly, a terrifying pressure weighed down on me.
Even my Yukang sword began to tremble.
No other choice. I had to unsling the oil paper umbrella from my back.
As I opened the umbrella, a bone-chilling wind howled, and a thick ghostly mist rolled in. A stunning, regal woman in a crimson dress glided out from within the umbrella.
The fat Taoist was scared out of his wits on the spot.
After all, she was a terrifying wraith of the Yin God realm. Where on earth would he have ever seen a Longhu Mountain disciple traveling with a crimson-clothed wraith? I bluffed, claiming I was Li Feiyu, a direct disciple of Longhu Mountain. That completely broke him. He chickened out instantly.
Muttering some pathetic threats, he grabbed his young disciple and bolted.
I didn't let my crimson-clothed companion pursue them. The patriarch's sword intent was too dangerous to mess with.
And I didn't want her to take unnecessary risks.
She is my friend, not a tool. But we hadn't walked much further when,
suddenly, a deafening blast shattered the air.
Kui Mountain was actually sliced clean in half by a single sword strike.
So this is the sheer power of the sword intent from Wansho Palace's white-browed sword immortal.
It was absolutely terrifying. Right after the fat Taoist's blood-curdling scream rang out.
Li Feiyu.
He was actually screaming my alias. Thing Feiyu died with bitter resentment.
Chills ran down my spine instantly.
I quickly activated the Shrinking Earth spell to make my escape. I kept running until dawn broke in the east. Only when the gates of Yushang City came into view did I finally breathe a sigh of relief.
I found a quiet corner to sit cross-legged and regulate my breathing.
An orderly man came up and stood right beside me.
Out of kindness, I offered him my spot. But I failed to notice that his shadow was actually shaped like a yellow weasel.
This was the father of the yellow weasel I killed. A great yellow immortal who had cultivated for 800 years.
He was the one who murdered the fat Taoist and pinned the entire thing on me. He didn't dare to make a move inside Yushang City, so he sent a clone to keep an eye on me. And I had no idea that danger was closing in on me. Step by step, after barely escaping the great yellow immortal's deadly pursuit, I finally stepped foot inside Yushang City. The morning city was bustling with the warmth of daily life,
But every single citizen was wearing a look of deep worry.
a severe drought had dragged on for days, leaving everything parched and desperate for water. Even ordinary liquor had become an incredibly expensive luxury. I passed by a tavern, hoping to buy a jar of fruit wine to quench my thirst. The shopkeeper actually had the audacity to demand 10 silver tiles for a single pot of wine. 10 silver taels? And absolutely no bargaining. I sneered inwardly. I decided to play along, slamming down the silver to make the purchase. I pulled out my 3 rounds pot and asked the shopkeeper to fill this gourd to the brim. Seeing how tiny the gourd was, the shopkeeper smirked, thinking I was just a rich fool, and happily began to pour. But he never could have guessed that this seemingly ordinary little gourd was actually a bottomless magic flask. An entire massive jar of pomegranate wine was drained to the dregs, yet the magic gourd showed absolutely no signs of filling up.
The shopkeeper's hands and feet began to tremble with sheer terror, and his heart filled with bitter regret.
I unsheathed my Yuchang sword, placed it gently on the table, and calmly
Warned him never to extort the common people ever again. With that, I picked up the immortal fox and walked away.
Because of this, I earned the title of the Gourd Immortal.
After asking around for directions, I quickly found the Qingyi Temple. The temple was simple, quiet, and elegant, completely lacking any grand or magnificent decorations. Yet, it drew the devout worship of the entire city's people. I lined up in an orderly fashion and waited my turn,
Witnessing firsthand the deep, heartfelt reverence the people had for the Qingyi goddess.
When it was finally my turn to enter,
I respectfully presented the jar containing the souls of the deceased and explained my purpose. The next second, the incense smoke transformed into a gateway, connecting directly to the Qingming realm.
The souls were finally able to enter and be reincarnated.
Hai and the souls of Li Village were all among them. Out of curiosity, I activated my Dharma eye and looked directly at the deity statue.
But little did I know, looking directly at a deity comes with a heavy price.
Instantly, a sharp, searing pain shot through my eyes.
and tears of blood streamed down uncontrollably.
Fortunately, the Qingyi goddess showed mercy.
She unexpectedly even healed my eye injury completely.
In the temple, she transformed into a spiritual skylark named Zhao Kre,
playing and laughing with me.
She told me that the goddess's banquet would begin in the evening and asked me to wait quietly in the city. After leaving the temple, I ran into Uncle Su, a farmer from the pear orchard.
Amidst the severe drought, the pear orchard was about to wither and die, leaving the villagers in unspeakable misery.
I stepped in and activated the Three Realms Gourd,
Summoning down a life-giving rain that relieved the orchard's drought. Afterward, I went down to the riverbank, wanting to store some more water just in case.
Suddenly, a white-haired old lady appeared. She repeatedly asked me to fetch water and serve it to her, saying,
"Fetch some water for this old woman."
And boil it. While it seemed like she was intentionally making things difficult,
But being kind-hearted, I complied anyway.
but then, something strange suddenly happened.
I had barely boiled a single bowl of water
When the entire river began to boil and churn right along with it,
I snapped awake in an instant.
The old lady standing before me was no ordinary mortal. An incredible opportunity to touch the ultimate Tao was quietly laid out right before me.
I'm Li Dashan.
In the last episode, I met a mysterious old lady by the river. With a wave of her hand, she turned the entire river into a sky full of clouds,
Saving Yushang City from its devastating drought.
Before leaving, she left behind half a bowl of water essence. This is a priceless treasure of the Dragon Palace, where 100,000 drops of water are condensed into just one. It can nourish your very soul and skyrocket your cultivation level. I took a few sips and instantly gained 3 years of cultivation power. My lower dantian surged with explosive spiritual energy, and my soul became significantly stronger.
The remaining half?
I didn't hesitate to hand it over to my gorgeous partner. After she drank it, a faint flush appeared on her cheeks, and she fell into a deep sleep to process the divine blessing. But just as the sky cleared up, I was locked onto by a terrifying wave of killing intent. No matter what I did, I couldn't shake it off. Just as I was preparing to fight for my life,
I crossed paths with 2 monks, one old, one young.
the little monk was incredibly handsome, born with a divine eye of wisdom. At a single glance, he saw through the female ghost in red sleeping inside my umbrella, and even warned me that a dark cloud of doom hung over my head, and that a great disaster was about to strike. When I asked, I was shocked to find out his name was Wanzang. That's right, the legendary Tang monk himself. Not only that, benefactor. That dark aura of doom hangs over your head. I fear a great disaster is about to strike you. I was completely dumbfounded on the spot. This kid is the reincarnation of the golden cicada. As for the older monk, his name is Sanail. He seemed greedy and ridiculous, but in reality, he was a master hiding in plain sight to escape the assassination attempt. I decided to tag along with them back to Dacheng Temple. This temple was ridiculously run down. There was even a sign at the entrance that read, "Seek nothing from outside," enough to scare away any potential pilgrims. As night fell, I didn't dare let my guard down, secretly clutching my 5 thunder talismans. I kept a vigilant watch over my surroundings. Sure enough, that hunched figure appeared outside Dacheng Temple once again. The clone of the Great Yellow Immortal finally couldn't hold back his burning rage over his son's death. Tonight, he wants to settle the score with me once and for all. A fierce battle to the death is about to erupt. With the red-clothed ghost deep in slumber, this Taoist must face the great demon all on his own. I am Li Dakchuan. Late at night, just north of Jingti Street near Dakan Temple. But I didn't know that the Great Yellow Immortal's clone, who was hunting me down, had already been sucked right into Master Sane's stomach with a single, loud gulp. After a brief moment of refinement, celestial music drifted down from the heavens. The Lark Fairy transformed into a young girl in white garments, driving the goddess's royal carriage to pick me up. Only then did I realize that Master Sane was such a formidable master, one whom even the goddess of green robes treated with the utmost respect. I rode in the goddess's exclusive carriage, soaring into the sky and heading straight for the Qingming Hall. Along the way, every cultivator we passed quickly stepped aside to make way. The sheer grandeur and status of it all were absolutely off the charts. Just as I arrived at the Qingming Hall, I crossed paths with 2 Yingzhou shamans who had traveled 1,000 miles to get here. Seeing me sitting in the royal carriage and occupying the guest of honor seat, they immediately grew bitter and indignant, muttering, "A mere Taoist dares to ride in such a noble carriage?" But the Lark Fairy instantly snapped back. "The goddess's carriage is hers to seat whoever she pleases." We entered the hall and took our seats. Only then did I realize that this banquet was a gathering of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Seated beside me was a red fox demon with 1,000 years of cultivation, and across from me sat the arrogant mountain god of Mei, along with shamans, cultivators, and all manner of powerful ghosts and eccentric spirits. Before long, the goddess of green robes herself made her grand entrance. The entire hall knelt in reverence, none of them daring to look up at her. At a glance, I recognized the elderly woman by the goddess's side. She was the formidable elder who had gifted me the crystal in the Fenjiang bamboo forest. With her arrival, the banquet officially began.
The luck fairy poured out a divine immortal brew, a legendary nectar supposedly reserved only for the gods. Although it could boost one's cultivation, it was also highly intoxicating.
No sooner had she spoken, the late-stage big-ear priest, who boasted he could drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk, threw his head back and drained his cup.
Instantly, he passed out cold right on the floor, snoring loudly.
The entire room gasped in sheer disbelief.
Looking down at the cup of nectar before me, I found myself in a tight spot.
If I drank it, I risked passing out and being at everyone's mercy. But if I refused, I would be insulting the goddess's hospitality.
The hidden perils of this banquet of ghosts and gods had only just begun.
I'm only Dox one.
At the Qingming banquet, the divine nectar was overwhelmingly intoxicating,
Leaving even a powerful Big U cultivator collapsed after just one cup. Gritting my teeth, I braced myself, threw my head back, and drank it down.
I slumped over the table, completely knocked out, instantly drawing sneers and mockery from the entire hall.
But they had no idea. I had already mastered
The art of entering deep, soul-transcending meditation.
My breath slows down, mimicking the deep, steady rhythm of a hibernating tortoise and instantly dissolving the sheer force of the alcohol surging within me and absorbing its pure spiritual essence.
In just a few moments, my mind snaps back to complete clarity.
I down another cup, falling drunk once more, only to sober up yet again.
Cup after cup,
I drink 9 cups of the divine nectar in a row.
My magical power skyrockets, multiplying several times over.
I break through, leaping from the early stage of the Anita realm straight to the middle stage.
Every cultivator in the room is left utterly dumbfounded.
Even the mountain god of mailing hangs his head in utter shame.
The lady in green speaks softly, her voice carrying an ethereal grace.
She praises me, saying I haven't brought shame to my master.
I casually mention my master's name, Zhang Qingyao. The moment the words leave my mouth, a collective gasp echoes through the entire hall.
The crowd erupts into an absolute frenzy. They all whisper that my master is the most ruthless figure of Mount Longhu.
In his youth, he tore down mountains, demolished temples, and even sailed the holy saintess of the shamanic lineage inside a larine.
Master, your dark history is seriously setting me up to fail.
Just as I'm sweating from sheer embarrassment, the lady in green officially makes a grand announcement.
She is going to fully open the gates to the Qingming realm
And completely rebuild the order of the underworld.
She will also select a Qingming envoy to serve as her representative in the mortal world.
The rewards she offers are absolutely mind-blowing. A low-grade spiritual treasure, the Wuchang Spirit Soldier Talismans.
A high-grade offensive magic treasure, and the legacy divine abilities of an ancient immortal.
Every cultivator in the hall is burning with greed and desire.
They scramble frantically to claim the prize.
But the more I listen, the less interested I become. Sure, the spiritual treasures are tempting,
But I'm not about to risk my neck. This position of Qingming envoy might hold immense power,
but it is bound to get dragged into the chaotic wars of the underworld. Since I already have the heavenly book, I can just cultivate steadily and safely. Why on earth would I wade into this muddy water?
while the entire hall is caught in a wild frenzy, bidding and fighting. I am the only one keeping my head down, remaining completely still.
The lady in green sweeps her gaze across the room, landing on me. Her eyes carry a deep, knowing look.
The real test of this feast of ghosts and gods has only just begun.
My name is Li Duxuan.
At the Qingming banquet,
Lady, Qingyi brought out an ancient mirror. Inside was the soul of a corrupt official,
Being burned by blazing fires.
and frozen by the icy waters of the underworld. Yet, despite this endless torture, he still couldn't shake his deep-seated greed.
The lady then asked the crowd who could cure him of his greed. The hall was filled with cultivators, all offering their ideas one after another.
Some suggested turning him into a puppet,
Some proposed locking it away forever.
and others suggested using charm spells. But one by one, all of their ideas were rejected.
To my surprise, the lady suddenly called my name, demanding an answer.
With nowhere to hide, I had to brace myself and speak up. It is easy to defeat the bandits in the mountains,
But hard to defeat the demons in one's heart. It's impossible to change his nature directly, but we can make him fear gold and silver.
I proposed. Since he loves wealth, let's give him mountains of gold and silver,
Then melt that gold and silver into a boiling hot liquid.
and force it down his throat.
Force him to swallow every single cent he ever stole.
We will use sheer agony to brand fear into his very soul. The lady put my plan into action immediately.
Sure enough, inside the mirror, the corrupt official started vomiting violently the second he saw gold and silver.
He was left with a deep psychological trauma.
Nodding in approval,
The lady asked me once again if I would become her underworld envoy. I took a deep breath and politely declined.
I only wanted to practice the Tao in peace and freedom,
Not get dragged into the conflicts of the underworld.
the moment the words left my mouth,
An entire hall fell dead silent.
immediately, the mountain god of Mailing stepped forward to challenge me.
He barked that I was arrogant and claimed he would teach me a lesson on behalf of my master.
Transforming into a colossal mountain giant, he He swung a massive palm straight at me. I immediately gripped 10 5-thunder talismans in my hand, prepared to fight to the death. But before I could even finish chanting the spell, a terrifying bolt of green lightning crashed down from the heavens. It blasted the mountain god of Mailing into scorched, shattered pieces, obliterating half of his body in an instant. All the cultivators present were scared out of their wits. This was no ordinary lightning spell. It was the legendary 49 Heavenly Thunder. While I was still completely dumbfounded, a carefree figure swept down from the sky. His dirty foot stepped right onto the mountain god's head. He spat a glob of phlegm right on him, cursing and swearing all the while. I looked closer and was stunned. It was actually my master, Zhao Chengyang. My master's yin spirit was traveling out of his body. With just his soul, he completely suppressed the late-stage yin spirit mountain god of Mailing. The mountain god desperately revealed his true form and channeled all the divine power of the mountain. But master simply pointed a finger and gave a soft shout. 3 mountains and 5 peaks. Enter my body. Suppress! The mountain god's arms shattered on the spot, and he was pinned to the ground, completely defeated. Only then did I realize that master had already taught this mountain god a lesson years ago. Because he had taken innocent lives, master had smashed his temple to pieces. If someone hadn't pleaded for his life, he would have been dead long ago. Master then turned his gaze toward the Chuma disciple. The disciple was so terrified he instantly denied everything and scrambled away on all fours in sheer panic. Index filling the hall fled as if avoiding the plague, vanishing in the blink of an eye. I finally understood just how terrifying my master's title as the #1 ruthless man of Mount Longhu truly was. I couldn't help but ask him about the Chuma Holy Maiden. Master told me frankly, that woman conspired with demons and seduced officials to tormented innocent people. So I stripped her of her soul and sealed her under a cesspool for 20 years, fighting evil with evil and combating poison with poison. At that moment, I finally realized my master may seem crazy and arrogant on the outside, but he holds a strict moral scale in his heart. He is fiercely protective, domineering, and unreasonable, but he only protects those who are in the right. With a master like this backing me up, I felt an instant, absolute peace of mind. I am Li Daxuan. I never expected my master, Zhao Qingyang, to be so incredibly powerful. Back then, over a dispute involving the Chuma shaman clan, my master literally tore down their sect gates and thrashed their ancient patriarch. It took Lady Jinyi herself stepping in to finally settle the dispute. Since Lady Chenyi's test had served its purpose, she confessed that she had once chosen me to be her Qingming or void, only for me to turn her down. Since my master's astral soul was wandering, he had to rush back to his physical form before sunrise. Before leaving, he said he would seek out supplementary herbs to help me refine the snake demon's inner core, leaving me to face the aftermath all on my own. When my mountain god of Mailing woke up, he lunged at me in a wild rage, but Lady Chenyi casually suppressed him with a single cold snort. His physical body almost shattered to pieces. The lady then had me stay to look into a bronze mirror. In its reflection, a past scene of me at Talking Temple materialized. The demon who tried to harm me that night was actually Huang Sanlang, a beast with 800 years of cultivation. The one Master Sane had swallowed was merely his hair clone, and his true target was always me. Because I killed his only descendant, that old weasel is currently waiting outside the city to ambush me. My master is gone, and Master Sanel won't step in. With no other choice, I agreed to become the Qingming envoy. The lady bestowed a phoenix jade pendant upon me as my token of office, which also allows me to summon her to meet at night. She also granted me a spiritual treasure and the Wuchang soldier and horse talisman. Once bound with a drop of my blood, it fused into a rune on my palm, allowing me to summon ghost soldiers. The second treasure was the sapphire heaven-escaping hairpin, which was precisely prepared for Sister Yu, who was about to wake up inside the umbrella. Finally, the lady offered me 3 divine abilities to choose from, including the colossal Fatayan Shangdi and the destructive 5 Thunders technique, both top-tier powers. And since I was already leaning toward the life-saving Great 5 Elements escape, and the Sparrow Fairy secretly tipped me off, I resolutely made my choice. And as I drew closer to the lady to listen to her imparting the profound teachings, I finally got a clear look at her peerless beauty. She was so sacred. Any impure thought felt like a sin. This technique was actually created by the ancient Buddha Zhu Lu Xuan, and its depths are boundless. Once mastered to perfection, one can control the great Tao of the 5 elements. Although I have only scratched the surface, I can already feel its immense power and versatility. My name is Li Daxuan, a mere Taoist priest in the early stage of vigor, consecrated by Lady Qingyi as her Qingming envoy. Now, armed with these treasures and divine abilities, I knew right then that the formidable demon, Yellow Sunleg, lurking outside the city, was the very first test of my new appointment. Once the Empress bestowed her sacred treasures and divine powers upon me, her eyes made it clear that our meeting was over. I had the audacity to beg her to step in and subdue Yellow Sanlang, but she flatly rejected me. As the Qingming envoy, slaying demons in the mortal realm is your sworn duty.
I have already granted you legendary treasures.
To aid you in your battle. Do not be greedy. Her cold words snapped me back to reality. This ghost immortal has lived for nearly 1,000 years, even if she favors me. Feel? She will never coddle me, unconditionally. If I die at the hands of Yellow Sanlang,
She won't lift a single finger to save me.
if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. But I already had a plan in mind. Having witnessed the sheer power of Hellfire and the Yellow Springs earlier,
I wanted to harness these two primordial forces
to unleash the ultimate power of my three realms Gorder. So, I proposed to borrow them from the Empress. With a single glance, she saw right through me. If I am not mistaken, you want to borrow both Hellfire and the Yellow Springs? Since she had exposed my plan, I came clean and pleaded with her directly, only for her to dismiss it as utter madness. She claimed these two supreme treasures were born in the 9 underworlds, and even she could not easily take them away. Unwilling to back down, I boldly proposed a wager. I bet that I can successfully tame both Hellfire and the Yellow Springs. If I win, give me 1 hour to collect as much as I want. And if I lose, I will hand over all my spiritual treasures and surrender my army of spirit soldiers. The Empress pinched her fingers to divine the future, and convinced of my inevitable defeat, she immediately accepted the bet. She raised her hand and pressed it against my shoulder. Instantly, my vision spun, and the world dissolved around me. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing beside a massive red lotus pond. The water was pitch black and viscous, reeking of a foul, rancid stench. It was filled with the agonizing wails and screams of worldly souls, born of greed, anger, obsession, and hatred. With a dramatic wave of her sleeve, the Empress, a pool of crimson lotuses bursts into full bloom, and the heart of these pulsing red flames is the yin fire itself. He walked along the Red River, cold eyes sweeping over the Yang Soul, and not a single cultivator dared to look him in the eye. On the rooftop, before Sanfolispid words could even fade, a black water surged forward like a living beast, but it stopped dead in its tracks right before him. She took a single graceful step forward, and all evil retreated in terror, fully displaying the unmatched majesty of an immortal. Then she asked me if I wanted to admit defeat. Though my heart was pounding with dread, I had to stake everything on the three realms gourd at my waist. This legendary immortal artifact, refined by Taishan Lachun and passed down by Tiguai Li. I slapped the gourd and roared. The black gourd in my hand burst with brilliant light, instantly swelling to nearly 100 feet as divine energy swirled around it. Its mouth became a black hole, unleashing a massive force that sucked the entire crimson lotus fire inside like a roaring dragon. Even though the karmic fire was scorching hot, couldn't harm the immortal artifact in the slightest. The surging black water was completely blocked by the divine light, unable to get even an inch closer. Seeing this, the goddess in green was completely stunned, her eyes wide with shock. She never imagined that a mere mortal cultivator like me could actually take away her karmic fire. I win the bet. I spent the next hour absorbing every last drop of the flames. Then I politely asked the goddess to accompany me to the Yellow Springs, but she simply said with cold indifference, "I am tired. Go by yourself." With a sudden flash of divine light, she vanished without a trace. Armed with the Phoenix Jade pendant, the Soul Reapers of the underworld all bowed to me with deep respect. My path was completely clear, until I finally reached the banks of the Yellow Springs, where a bone-chilling draft rushed over me. This tributary of the Yellow Springs was raging like a mighty river, searching violently like the Great Yellow River itself. Once again, I summoned the Three Realms Gourd and absorbed the water for another hour. The water level of the Yellow Springs visibly plummeted before I finally stopped. Before leaving, I clasped my hands and bowed to the goddess of Mount Yanlu to say goodbye, pretending to be reluctant to leave as I begged for a jar of divine nectar as a keepsake. This only annoyed her, and she snapped, "Get the hell out of here." A divine light swept over me, making my world spin. When I opened my eyes again, I was already in a secluded cemetery in Yushang City. I had returned to the mortal realm, touching the scorching karmic fire and freezing underworld waters inside the Three Realms gourd at my waist, and clutching the Phoenix Jade pendant in my robe, which still carried the faint fragrance of her grace. I knew for a fact that I was truly a Qingming envoy now. Overnight, it felt as though a lifetime had passed. I was deeply grateful to her grace for thinking so highly of me, yet I couldn't understand why she favored me so. But there was no time to dwell on it. I immediately cast the earth-shrinking teleportation technique and rushed back to Daching Temple. By then, dawn was just breaking, and the young monk, Shan Zhang, saw me on the roof absorbing the morning sun's purple mist. He noticed that the calamity aura above my head had greatly decreased, and that I was even channeling a 5-colored spiritual light. With his innate divine eyes, he actually saw the true essence of the great 5 elements evasion technique her grace had bestowed upon me. I told him all about my journey to the Qingming realm, and he was genuinely happy for me. Master Sani came out shortly after, praising her grace's favor toward me, again and again.
He even jokingly blamed Xuanzang for not measuring up to me.
Xuanzang protested, aggrieved, saying the master wouldn't even let him cultivate.
Master Sanli just played dumb, claiming he'd just woken up and couldn't remember a thing.
It was both frustrating and hilarious, since I was about to leave Yushang City,
and remembering that Master Sanli had once saved my life.
And as Xuanzang and I got along so well.
I unclasped the Yukang sword from my waist, one of the 10 legendary swords of the spring and autumn period. I gifted this high-grade spiritual weapon to Xuanzang for self-defense. Having suffered cold shoulders and hardship since childhood,
he held the sword with tears welling in his eyes.
he stubbornly tried to decline, but I forced it into his hands, telling him there was no need for such distance between brothers. He bowed his head and promised that once his cultivation succeeded, he would surely repay the favor of this sword. Calling me Brother Li was the bond that sealed our friendship. My journey to the Qiming realm had come to an end, carrying the karmic fire in the underworld waters, with the 3 realms gourd and the phoenix jade pendant at my side.
Although the trial of Huang Sanlang set by my sect in the Qingming realm was only the first test.
Even if the road ahead is packed with demons, monsters, and endless dangers,
I, Li Dachuan, will fear absolutely nothing.
on this path of a Qingming envoy, I will keep moving forward, taking one steady step at a time.
My name is Li Doxia.
Since parting with the Green Road Empress and returning to the living world, after gifting the fish intestine sword to Xuanzang,
The brief peace at Dacheng Temple was ultimately shattered by Huang Songlang's murderous intent.
thankfully Sister Yu's awakening gave me a powerful shield on the very edge of life and death.
While Shellentown was off preparing breakfast,
Master Sanli thanked me for gifting the sword to his disciple. I too was deeply grateful for his life-saving help the previous night, so I had already placed 100 taels of silver in the merit box. The weight of that 100 tiles of silver instantly prompted Master Sanli to address me as worthy nephew instead of young friend. He even feigned a stomachache and bolted straight for the main hall, cradling the merit box as if he couldn't bear to let it go. This master possesses immense, heaven-defying powers, yet chooses to settle in the mortal world. Greedy for wealth, yet refusing to use his magic to profit for others. He truly is a fascinating contradiction. Just as I was lost in thought, the oiled paper umbrella on my back suddenly trembled. My heart leaped with joy. Sister View is finally waking up. I rushed back to my room and opened the umbrella. Clad in her bridal dress, Shenziyu floated in the air, their spirit looking significantly more solid and substantial. It must be the miraculous effect of the water essence gifted by the Green Robe Empress. Just as I stepped forward to congratulate her, she suddenly reached out. Seben? And gripping my beating heart, bone-chilling cold and excruciating pain surged through me. I was utterly bewildered, but she tightened her grip, pulling a single strand of pale gold fur from my heart. Stained with a drop of blood, it instantly materialized into a weasel. A cold sweat instantly broke out over my entire body. It turned out that Huang Sanlan had secretly laid this deadly trap long ago. If Sister Yu hadn't awakened her divine ability to extract objects from the body, I would have surely died today. This divine ability is truly miraculous, penetrating the body to extract objects without leaving a single trace of a wound. It is comparable to Judge Lu's heart-swapping technique in Strange Tales from a Chinese studio. It can save lives, but it can also kill. Trembling with lingering fear, I took out the green jade heaven-fleeing hairpin I had obtained from the Green Robe Empress and gifted it to her. This hairpin, infused with the clear energy of a ghost immortal, is highly nurturing to spirits.
Yuji's eyes were filled with deep longing.
Yet, she hesitated. She had suffered nothing but torment her entire life, and no one had ever treated her with such kindness. I gently slid the jade hairpin into her hair, bringing a faint, rare smile to her lips. Suddenly, fresh words seeped onto her wedding dress once more. "We will protect your path for 10 more years." She had originally agreed with my master to protect me for 10 years, but now she was willing to add another 10, all for this simple gift. Her aloof yet innocent nature made me quietly vow to myself, and I would find the absolute best ghost cultivation method for her and help her ascend as a true ghost, immortal. Carefully tucking away the weasel hair, I knew Yushang City was no longer a safe place to stay. Rang Sansalang's revenge was coming, and this time, it would be a fight to the death. At noon, when my yang energy was at its strongest, I bade farewell to Master Xuanzang and his disciples and left the city. I wasn't looking for a reckless suicidal fight, but wanted to take this exact opportunity to slip away. Activating the earth-shrinking teleportation technique, I rushed ahead for 8 long hours until I reached a desolate mountain.
Suddenly, a strange, sweet fragrance washed over me.
My eyelids grew incredibly heavy, so I feigned sleep and closed my eyes. But Yuvi had already sensed the danger. This was nothing but my trap to lure Huang Sanlang out. Sure enough, an old man in yellow robes materialized out of thin air. It was indeed Huang Sanlang. He spat out venomous curses,
Vining to suck dry my yang energy.
and refine my soul into his eternal slave. But the very second he tried to drain my life force,
Protective amulet on my chest flared with blinding light. The brilliant golden rays burned him, forcing him back into his beastly form.
Seizing the split second, I cast out the demon-revealing mirror,
Blinding his eyes. Yoji, now! I roared,
Tachinjo escape heaven hairpin turned into a streak of pure light.
piercing straight through his forehead. And in that exact instant, Yuji reached out.
I crushed his heart. I swung my Chixie sword and sliced off his head.
Then I slapped a 5 Thunder Talisman on him to completely obliterate his yin spirit, but his corpse suddenly dissolved into a single, pale, golden hair.
Everything that just happened
Was nothing but his clone.
Suddenly, countless yellow-robed old men emerged from all over the mountains. Every single one of them was Holangslang's clone. With over 800 years of cultivation, he was cautious to the absolute extreme.
Kasan stood closely by my side to shield me. Squeezing out a single drop of blood, she manifested a glowing word. Protect.
That sheer determination instantly dispelled all the fear in my heart.
Standing shoulder to shoulder with her,
We faced the swirling yellow sandstorm,
Immediately those clones tore through their human skins.
revealing their true forms as giant weasels. They all hoisted up their backsides in unison, spraying a massive cloud of yellow toxic gas into the sky. This toxic gas was extremely corrosive.
wherever it passed, the plants and grass withered instantly, and even the trees began to smoke.
Jisan tried to shield me with her own body to let me escape, but I pulled her back. I slapped the 3 rims gourd on my waist, opening it wide to suck the toxic gas completely inside.
Hyostenlang's voice echoed through the mountains. Clit pointed at my treasure.
But greed had already flared up in his eyes. Immediately after, countless weasels exhaled a demonic wind as sharp as blades. Even towering trees were sliced clean in half.
I made the 3 reels gore expand to over 90 feet wide,
turning it into a massive shield right in front of us.
But the demonic wind was coming from all directions. The gourd could only protect us from one side.
I had no choice but to activate the earth-shrinking swift step spell to dodge left and right.
The golden light of my protective talisman began to fade.
And just as it completely vanished and the demonic wind became impossible to dodge,
Zan spun around and pulled me into her embrace. Her long black hair transformed
into a dense cocoon,
wrapping us up tight.
I heard a muffled groan escape her lips.
I knew we couldn't stay on the defensive like this any longer. I leaned in close to her ear and whispered. I told her to execute the final plan.
This plan has a good chance of success,
But it is fraught with extreme peril, and I am the greatest risk in it. The elegant beauty froze for a moment, but still nodded in agreement. The worry in her eyes
Stirred my heart.
I smiled at her and squeezed her hand tightly.
I told her that we would surely prevail.
Then raised the Gushauk soldier talisman in the palm of my left hand and channeled my spiritual power, unleashing a blinding, radiant light. I chanted the spell. Righteous gods and celestial troops, fierce officers and generals, let your majestic power shake the heavens. Wield your spears and swords, slay without fear, unleash your fury, annihilate all wild and sinister evils.
Behead them until blood drips.
Command the ghosts and slay the demons.
Civil and military guardians descend at once.
My mean is, Li Dogs.
The moment I summoned the Wuchang spirit soldiers,
I knew this battle to the death against Huang Sanlang
required us to fight with no way back.
to carve out a path to survival. As my spiritual power flooded into the Wakan soldier talisman, eerie winds howled through the heavens and earth.
And battle cries shook the sky.
50 Yen soldiers clad in black armor appeared in response. All of them possessed the strength of the early Bigi stage. These fearless spirit soldiers swiftly formed a shield wall, guarding me at the center. The demonic wind swept in, leaving only pale scratches on our shields.
A resounding cry of, "We obey the master's command," sent a surge of adrenaline through my veins.
I immediately ordered a counterattack.
Yin soldiers drew their bows, and raining arrows poured down.
In an instant, over a dozen of Huang Sanlang's weasel clones were reduced to ashes. I channeled my spiritual power into the longevity talisman and then activated the 5 Thunders talisman. Thunderbolts crashed down,
And flames engulfed the sky.
the elegant beauty controlled her green jade shield to ward off the attacks. Wherever the red light swept, its clones were pierced through one after another. But Huang Xiaoling's clones were endless. For every one we killed, another would rise in its place. The battle quickly ground to a bloody stalemate, and nearly half of my Yin soldiers were killed or wounded. The eerie ghost fires are growing dimmer. Wang Sunlight's wild laughter echoes through the mountains. He won't stop until he has ripped away my very soul. The beautiful lady and I exchange a quick look. Our minds are in perfect sync. I order all the ghost soldiers to reinforce the shield formation with everything they've got. Then I pull out a straw doll, Zhongping magical artifact, stuff the golden hair of Wang Sanlang, which I had pulled from near my heart, right into its mouth. In an instant, the straw doll morphs into the exact likeness of Huang Sanlang,
Grasping the Chixia sword, I plunge it straight into the straw doll's rear.
But a clean kill was never my goal. I want to use the straw doll's curse backlash to force out his true form.
A bone-shredding scream from Huang Slang echoes through the forest.
The beautiful lady's eyes instantly turn ice cold. Her dark hair whips wildly in the wind.
A blood-red murderous aura stains the very clouds. The location of his true form is locked in with a single glance.
But inside the shield formation, I am hit by the spell's backlash.
Blood sprays from my mouth.
The cursed doll shatters into pieces. But I couldn't care less.
I watch as the beautiful lady transforms into a streak of green light,
Charging straight for Huang Sanlang's true body.
With a furious roar, Huang Sanling unleashes his demonic energy, using his staff to block her green jade, heaven, east spink hairpin. All of his clones pivot in unison,
Spewing gale-force demonic winds right at her.
I draw my sword and bellow in rage. Go, soldiers! Hear my command! Me. Charge!
The Chixia sword blazes with flowing light.
Its sword energy slashing in all directions, leading the charge at the very front.
My Taoist robe is quickly soaked in demonic blood.
None of the weasel clones can stand against me for even a single second.
Out of over 30 ghost soldiers, only 4 remain.
Yet they still follow close behind, spears raised high, never leaving my side for a single inch.
Carving a bloody path through the horde.
I finally reach Huang Sang. I pour every drop of my magical power into one final slash.
He actually blocks my strike with his staff in one hand, while his other hand reaches out, tapping the very tip of my sword.
Impact splits my hands open, sending me flying backward.
Yet, a smirk of victory is hidden in my eyes.
Because inside the blood spewing from my mouth is the Three Realms gourd, shrunk to the size of a fingernail. While still hurtling through the air, I instantly activate the gourd. The Three Realms gourd expands wildly.
The mouth of the gourd opens wide, and the freezing waters of the river Styx come rushing out.
The temperature plunges instantly across heaven and earth, and snow begins to fall. My gorgeous partner has already wrapped her long black hair around Huang Sanling, pinning the bastard dead in his tracks. As the freezing underworld waters drench his body,
He's instantly frozen into an ice sculpture. In the blink of an eye, the blue jade sky hairpin pierces right through his cane and his heart.
with 10-5 thunder talibans plastered onto him, I chant the spell. And 10 roaring bolts of lightning strike down. 10 devastating thunderbolts crash onto his head.
An entire mountain shakes violently.
I trigger the Three Realms gourd again to spew out raging karmic fire,
completely engulfing his charred, blackened body.
believing that victory is finally ours. I start anticipating the rewards for slaying an 800-year-old demon. But the demon-slaying book remains completely silent. Kuol Sanlak is not dead,
But quickly summon the longevity talisman.
replenishing spiritual energy for both myself and my gorgeous partner. Suddenly, that charred corpse begins to move. The crimson demon core is spat out from its mouth,
The very source of his power that he spent 800 years cultivating.
In the next moment, the core shatters, reabsorbing entirely into his flesh. The madman actually destroyed his own core, sacrificing centuries of cultivation for absolute power, a forbidden technique of mutual destruction. The raging fire is snuffed out by a tidal wave of demonic energy. No,
His charcoal-like skin cracks open.
it's the golden fur erupts from his flesh. A colossal, muscular weasel howls at the moon, his demonic aura piercing the heavens. Run! I grab my gorgeous partner and bolt. 4 ghost soldiers raise their spears to cover our escape. What? Facing the now indestructible Huang Sanlang without taking a single step back. But Huang Sanlang swallows a ghost soldier in one bite.
Then spits the bones back out in disgust, scattering them across the ground.
But he has already launched himself into the air like a cannonball, smashing through the trees, tearing after us.
Chen Ziyu activates her green jade escape hairpin to carry me high into the sky.
But our own sun is lightning fast.
Before our immobilization talismans can even get close, his demonic aura shatters them to pieces. A foul, sickening stench is already closing in. Sister Yu suddenly flings off my hand and stops dead in her tracks. Her blood-red wedding dress oozes fresh blood, cooling together to form a single crimson word. Run! Her pupils turn to deep blood, trapping Huan Sanlang in her illusion. But her wedding dress is slowly turning white as the crimson color fades away.
To keep the rampaging Rongslan trapped.
She was burning through her very soul. If this keeps up, she will be utterly destroyed. I frantically rummaged through my 3 reels gourd until I finally grasped the feather given to me by Finch Fairy. Channeling my spiritual energy into it should summon her clone, even though I have my doubts. I have to treat this as a last resort and hope for a miracle. I pour my spiritual power into the feather. It glows with a shimmering light, and a tiny Skylark clone materializes.
But the moment it sees Huang Sanlang, it scurries right into my clothes, shivering with fear.
Whimpering in a tiny, babyish voice. I'm scared! I yell at it in frustration, and only then does it realize it's just a clone. It immediately spreads its wings and charges at Huang Xiaolang, only to crash headfirst into him,
leaving it dizzy with stars spinning around its head, just as my heart sinks in despair.
And I prepare to fight him to the absolute death. The little skylark suddenly erupts in a blinding flash of light. Its body expands rapidly 10 feet,
100 feet, 500 feet.
Its massive wings completely blot out the sky and the moon, and its resonant cry shakes heaven and earth. I look up at the colossal figure eclipsing the sky, the pupils shrinking in sheer shock.
Lost for words, I gasp out.
Holy crap! Symbol?
the heavenly giant form.
My name is Li, Duxwan. This giant sparrow, summoned by the Sparrow Fairy's cosmic manifestation, blocked out the sky. It bought me a brief moment of hope, letting me escape the deadly pursuit of Huang Xiaolang.
But I never expected this hope to vanish in the blink of an eye.
And the real way out was actually hidden in a desperate, unexpected alliance.
Along with those chance encounters, and the strength I gained along the way, the Sparrow Fairy's giant bird clawed and tore at the air.
With one massive strike, she pinned down Kualsan, who was as huge as a small mountain. She repeatedly flung him high into the air, letting him crash violently back to the ground. Having lost his mind, Huang Xiaolang was driven by pure animal instinct. Left battered, bruised, and bleeding all over, he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Taking advantage of the chaos, I ran to my lady's side. I quickly placed the longevity talisman on her, and as the bloodshot madness faded from her eyes, and her bridal gown returned to its brilliant red, the knot in my chest finally loosened.
But barely 15 minutes later,
The Sparrow Fairy warned me that the time limit for her avatar had expired. Her massive form began to dissolve, turning into ash. Now it was just me, my lady, and Huang Xiaolang.
Dragging his broken leg, staring back at us with eyes full of pure malice. Desperate, I suddenly shouted, "Look, the Sparrow Fairy is back!"
The moment he turned his head,
I grabbed my lady's hand and bolted.
but to my horror, our path was blocked by a master and disciple from the Chuma clan.
Trapped in the front, pursued from behind, true despair had finally arrived.
I begged my lady to run and save herself.
but she silently took my hand.
Her icy palm, surprisingly, sent a wave of warmth straight to my heart.
As the Chuma master and disciple transformed into an armored giant ape and a massive grizzly bear, charging right at us.
I thought we were dead for sure.
But instead, they lunged straight past us, throwing themselves at Huang Xiaolang.
The giant ape ripped up a tree, swinging it like a massive staff,
While the grizzly bear unleashed blows of terrifying, raw power. As the three of them clashed in a brutal struggle,
one boa's furious roar echoed through the air.
李导兄，
有壮阔人的制造否？
Are you just going to stand there and fucking watch?
That harsh shout ignited a roaring fire in my chest.
I unsheathed my Chix's sword.
And roared.
Here I come! My lady activated her green jade shield, and together, we charged head first into the chaotic battle. The three of us formed a tight triangle, completely trapping Huang Xiaolang.
The mid-stage Yin spirit lady blinded the demon with a single sword strike, while the shaman master and disciple bit right through his spine.
Wang Bo smashed his right leg with one blow of his staff.
I pinned Hong Strong's head to the ground with my foot.
Channeled my strength, swung my sword, and roared, "Slay!" The great demon, with over 800 years of cultivation, was instantly beheaded.
His Ying soul tried to flee.
But I had already unleashed my three realms gourd. Raging flames surged out.
And without his demon core, his Ying soul was instantly incinerated into ash.
The demon-slaying heavenly book in my mind erupted with brilliant light, flashing a prompt.
June, in the early years of the Zhengyuan era.
You have slain a yellow demon with 863 years of cultivation?
Reward gained.
Divine ability, transforming blown hair. In this battle to the death, I actually won! From beginning to end, Lady Qingyi of the Underworld watched everything. She was highly pleased with my quick wit and fierce loyalty. Meanwhile, Xuanzang at Taking Temple had chanted scriptures for me all night long. It was only when Master Sanei broke the news that I had slain Huang Xiaolang. Kicking down a yin spirit demon, while only at the fasting stage, this legendary feat instantly shocked the cultivation world. By the side of a quiet stream, I dried my blood-stained Taoist robe over the fire. The shaman master and disciple were shivering violently from the backlash of channeling spirits. The severe loss of their yang energy had left them deathly pale.
Remembering how they had saved my life,
I pulled out 2 longevity talismans, chanted the spell, and channeled the energy into their bodies. Instantly, their freezing cold and weakness faded away. Seeing the excitement and embarrassment in their eyes, I handed them 5 more longevity talismans. I wanted to forge a deep bond with the shaman lineage. At this moment, our school's ancient feuds vanished into thin air. The two confessed they had only come to Lady Qingyi's banquet
to find a powerful backer for their fading sect. My heart stirred.
and I pointed them toward the path to Chang'an, the soaring imperial qi of the prosperous Zhengyuan era. would surely help the shaman lineage rise to greatness.
Hearing this, they were incredibly thrilled and decided to return to their mountain sect to discuss it.
As a final gesture, I gifted them Fongqinglang's corpse.
To the Chuma lineage, this is the ultimate cultivation treasure.
But to me, it's completely useless.
Wang Mo refused to just take my help for free.
So he stuffed an ancient tome he'd found on his travels right into my hands.
Declaring right then and there that I am now a sworn friend of the Chuma lineage. If I ever need them, they'll go through hell and back for me. No questions asked.
As I watched them walk away into the distance, I opened the ancient book. The 4 words on the cover, the Bay's truth words, made my heart skip a beat.
This incredible mantra actually lets you communicate with all things. Birds in the sky, beasts on the land, even flowers, plants, insects, and fish. You can talk to all of them.
Every plant and tree in the world can become my eyes and ears.
It is absolutely miraculous.
After sending the master and disciple on their way,
I began to reflect on the lessons of that battle.
My intelligence was lacking. My cultivation level was too weak.
And most importantly, I hadn't put enough effort into mastering the Great 5 Elements escape art.
Every single one of those mistakes almost cost me my life. So I set a new goal for myself.
First, master the hair-to-object transformation technique, and before I break through to the mid-Bagyu stage,
I must master the Earth chapter of the Great 5 Elements escape art. This hair-to-object spell is a top-tier Taoist ability. Once mastered, it can transform my hair into anything in existence. It is far superior to simple tricks like turning grass into horses or scattering beans to summon soldiers. It is infinitely more profound.
and with the great heavenly Tum directly infusing the cultivation experience into me,
my progress is completely effortless. Under the pale moonlight, I sat cross-legged as my spiritual energy transformed into primordial chi, refining every single hair on my body.
as a mystical mist began to rise around me. My training in the hair-to-object technique officially began.
My name is Lidox, Lycox. After mastering this incredible technique, I wanted nothing more than to focus on quiet cultivation.
But out of nowhere, I crossed paths with Renjie, the future legendary detective, and stumbled right into a horrific murder case in Shasha Village, my old home. A massive crisis, one that threatens the very survival of Xinjiang County, has quietly crept upon us. 7 days later, at dusk,
By the stream, I finally mastered the hair-to-object technique. Now, with just a single strand of hair, I can create a perfect clone of myself.
Not only can these clones cultivate simultaneously, but when they disperse, all of their cultivation experience flows directly back to me. It is literally the ultimate cheat code for cultivation. Just as I was testing out the miraculous uses of my clones and practicing swordplay and drawing talismans, a young boy riding an ox was drawn over by the strange phenomena.
he was sharp-tongued and articulate.
And with his incredible powers of observation, he called himself Renjie.
None other than the future legendary detective of the Great Tang.
On a whim, I gifted him a blank heavenly scroll.
Once soaked in water, it would reveal 8 characters. Prime Minister of Tang, don't get too fat. I then activated my earth-shrinking divine walk spell and drifted away, leaving behind a thoroughly dumbstruck Renjie.
And in my heart, I also remembered my own emotional sigh. The Great Tang can do without me.
本历找算看到多道友，评论界。
Along the way, a playful whim suddenly struck me. Using a strand of my hair, I conjured a clone in the likeness of a gorgeous, mature woman and made her dance. But I didn't expect the real beauty herself to drift out of the oil paper umbrella, her blue jade sky of Asian hairpin. Instantly pressing right against my neck, I quickly backed down and surrendered, explaining that I was merely testing out my divine powers. But she remained angry, sulking as she retreated back into the umbrella. No matter how much I called out to her, she refused to reply, looking exactly like a little wife throwing a tantrum. I could only let out a bitter smile and let it go, deciding to wait until she cooled off before making any plans. Over the next few days, I devoted all my strength to practicing the earth element of the Great 5 Elements evasion technique with the help of my clones. 9 clones sat cross-legged in meditation at the same time, as an earthy yellow light enveloped their bodies. Just 2 hours of comprehension far surpassed what I could achieve in weeks of normal training. Seeing that my earth evasion technique was on the verge of completion, I quickened my pace and headed towards Xinjiang County. When I passed by Siwa's village, where I had once slain the bat demon, I originally wanted to pay a quiet visit, but I was stopped by several patrolling constables. The head constable's words made my heart sink. Overnight, everyone in Sayoso village had turned into cold corpses. Every single one of them was hung from the old locust tree. In an instant, murderous intent erupted from my entire body, shocking the constables so much that they froze on the spot. I then quickened my steps and entered the village. The thick stench of blood hung heavy in the air. The old locust tree was covered with the hanging bodies of the villagers, including the old village chief and his little granddaughter. The once warm village was now completely silent, dead to the world. I was absolutely certain this was the work of a demon. A faint trace of demonic energy still lingered on the corpses,
And there were no signs of dragging.
indicating that hanging the bodies was more like a warning and provocation. Just as I was about to lower the bodies for burial, I sensed a pair of eyes in the darkness, watching me summon the Scarlet Sunset Sword. Yet when I looked toward the corner, there was absolutely no one there. I immediately used my token to summon 50 spirit soldiers from the Wuchang army to search the entire village. Finally, we dug up a short,
covered old man from under the earth.
To my surprise, he was actually the land deity of Shasha village. He confessed that a terrifying demonic aura had blanketed the village yesterday. The villagers had been brutally massacred. He tried to intervene, but his physical body was completely destroyed. He barely managed to reconstruct his physical form using the power of incense offerings. Although he didn't see the demons' faces clearly, he caught a faint glimpse of 3 shadows. Furthermore, the demons had already headed towards Xinyang County. My heart sank. 3 demons wreaking havoc at the same time was definitely no coincidence. I'm afraid they are planning to massacre the entire town of Xinyang. I told the land deity to bury the villagers. While I rushed to Xinyang County overnight, after slipping into the city, I was relieved to find no smell of blood in the air. I let out a sigh of relief, but when I returned to the Zanyang temple,
All I found was a letter left by my master.
it said he went deep into the mountains to gather herbs, and he specifically reminded me to buy him a new coffin. Apparently the old one was too hard and hurt his butt. With my master gone, I couldn't help but feel worried. If those 3 demons have powers comparable to Third Master Huang,
I'm afraid I won't be able to handle them alone.
when in doubt, the only way is to call on a heavyweight for help. I fetched some well water, splashed it onto the bronze mirror inside the Phoenix Jade pendant, and chanted the green-robed goddess's divine name. The mist on the bronze mirror cleared, revealing the goddess's stunning face. With her long dark hair cascading softly, her cold gaze swept over me. What is it this time, you little rascal? My name is Lidok, Stefan. The moment I saw the green-robed goddess in the bronze mirror, all the anxiety in my heart instantly vanished, leaving only a profound sense of security. I explained exactly how the 3 demons had massacred Shasha village, and shamelessly begged her for a way to deal with them. In my eyes, a powerful backer is meant to be relied on. Pride is worth absolutely nothing when my life is on the line. Her Highness didn't step in to help me directly. Instead, she lowered her gaze and folded a paper crane. With a gentle blow, the paper crane passed right through the mirror and landed in my palm. She told me, "This is a voice-transmitting crane. It can carry messages across thousands of miles and track down anyone. Just tell it what you want to say, and it'll deliver the message to whoever you want." I was absolutely thrilled. I immediately grabbed one of my master's smelly shoes, letting the crane memorize his scent, and ordered it to find him.
Sunyang County's in danger.
Come back right away.
The crane took off, vanishing into the night sky. And with that, Her Highness ended the call. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. This felt exactly like a boss hurriedly hanging up a video call. Over the next few days, I threw myself entirely into my cultivation, using my special ability to create clones from my own hair. I conjured 10 clones all at once. They all sat on the roof of the Zhenyang temple, cultivating the violet chi nurturing technique.
Morning violet chi is incredibly rare to begin with.
But with my clones helping me, my absorption speed skyrocketed tenfold. My physical body grew stronger at a pace you could literally see. After 7 days, I achieved breakthrough after breakthrough. I taught myself to draw the longevity talisman, mastered the 2nd level of the violet tea nurturing technique, and I even unlocked the basics of the Baze mantra, which let me talk to birds and beasts. The only hitch was the earth style of my 5 elements evasion art. It had a major bottleneck.
Even lying inside my master's coffin to meditate
Didn't help me make any progress. But as the energy in my lower dantian grew stronger by the day, and my spiritual power was about to expand into a vast sea, I made a bold choice to push for the mid-stage of the fasting realm first. With the help of the divine elixir and the fortuitous encounter I had, combined with my clones training tirelessly day and night, I managed to gather enough power in less than a single month. I finally have everything I need to break through the Crimson Palace. To make absolutely sure I'd survive, I went to find Chen Ziyu, who is still sulking. First, I coaxed her with some candied hawthorns. Then, I played the pity card. It worked! She finally agreed to protect me during my breakthrough. Using a single drop of her own blood, she wrote down 3 words. Don't you die. She stubbornly claimed she only did it for the sweets. But then she quietly stayed right by my side, refusing to leave even for a second. The breakthrough began. I channeled my vast spiritual power, sending it surging straight into my Dantian's Crimson Palace. Suddenly, a deafening boom echoed in my chest. My vital energy erupted like a roaring river bursting through a dam. But right at the critical moment of my breakthrough, I was dragged into a deadly trial of illusions. The Bat Demon, the Snake Demon,
Ibn Ong Lang's phantom attacked me, one after another.
the endless, suffocating malice threatened to consume my soul. Just as I was about to lose myself to the darkness, a wisp of Chen Ziyu's icy yin energy snapped me back to my senses. Seizing the chance, I shattered the illusion with one powerful blow and successfully stabilized my cultivation. I had officially entered the mid-Bagyu realm. As black impurities and toxic blood poured from my skin, I knew I had completely shut my mortal shell.
Appalled by the foul stench on me, the cold beauty threw me straight into the lake.
I playfully pretended that I was drowning, and to my surprise, despite her extreme phobia of water, she dove right in to save me without a second thought. Seeing her panic and struggle helplessly in the water, my heart swelled with a mixture of warmth and amusement.
This tsundere female ghost, who always acts so cold and aloof, is actually so pure and kind on the inside. She truly values our bond above all else.
Even though she was terrified out of her mind,
She still chose to face her deepest fear just to save me.
later, when we returned to town,
We ran right into the grand wedding procession of the county magistrate's daughter.
gongs and drums were blaring.
And the streets were incredibly lively.
But suddenly, a bizarre gust of black wind swept past, and I caught a faint, unmistakable scent of demonic energy.
Xiang County may look peaceful on the surface,
But beneath the surface, deadly demons are lurking in the shadows. With my master still nowhere to be found, the only person I can rely on is myself. The earth evasion technique is my ultimate trump card right now, so I have to break through this bottleneck as fast as possible. After weighing my options, my only choice was to reach out to Lady Qingyi again. At the stroke of midnight, I reverently sprinkled well water onto the bronze mirror and chanted the lady's sacred name. A moment later, the rear glowed with a soft light, and the elegant figure of Lady Qingyi slowly materialized.
she was bathed in flowing celestial radiance,
Exuding a pure and transcendent grace. But when she looked at me, her eyes were filled with sheer helplessness. She sighed softly and said, "I'm already starting to regret giving you my Qingyi token." I knew right then that I'd have to rely on this powerful patron once again. Meanwhile, the demonic threat lurking in Xinjiang County was silently brewing under the cover of night. A brand new clash was about to begin. My name is Li Daxuan, just a novice Taoist scraping by in the mystic world. I survive by sweet-talking my way out of trouble and level up using my raw wits. Today, I shamelessly went back to see the mysterious, all-powerful Lady Qingyi at Jinyang Temple. Facing her teasing remarks, I just grinned, completely throwing my pride out the window. Hey, who can blame me? After all, I'm her guy. You know, for some reason, every time I look at you, my lady, I feel this deep warmth. If I had an older sister, she'd probably be just as gorgeous as you and treat me just as wonderfully. The moment those words left my mouth,
even the oil papper umbrella in the corner quietly edged away from me.
clearly wanting absolutely nothing to do with a shameless flatterer like me. Even Lady Qingyi was left completely speechless. Given her age, she was old enough to be my ancestor's older sister. Yet, hearing herself being called sister, she couldn't help but crack a smile. After all, whether you're a human, a ghost, or an immortal, nobody likes being called old. Stop your silver-tongued nonsense. Speak up. What is it this time? I immediately wiped the smirk off my face, think up straight, and looked serious. Goddess, I've hit a bottleneck while practicing the earth evasion chapter. No matter how I try to meditate on it, I can't seem to make any progress. Goddess Qingyi smiled faintly. The great 5 elements evasion is deep and obscure. To master the first level, you must learn 5 types of evasion techniques, and among them, earth evasion is the most difficult. If you want to master the earth evasion, simply meditating on it isn't enough. You need to experience it for yourself. A sudden spark lit up my mind. Goddess, are you telling me to bury myself alive? The goddess nodded. Exactly. My heart tightened. But won't that be dangerous? She only left behind a sentence. If you don't enter the tiger's den, how can you catch the tiger's cub? With that, she flicked her sleeve and vanished. Standing there, I repeated her words over and over. Screw it. I'm doing this. If I have to try, I'll try. I walked into the courtyard, pulled out a strand of hair, and turned it into a clone. I took out my Chixia sword and started digging. Soon, I dug out a deep pit. It looked exactly like a grave. My clone voluntarily lay down inside and asked me, "How does it feel to bury yourself?" I shoved a handful of dirt right onto his face. "Have a safe trip. Goodbye." But buried my clone completely and waited quietly. But before long, I suddenly snapped my eyes open, gasping heavily for air. I was utterly terrified. My clone had been completely suffocated to death. Other than the agonizing pain of suffocation, I didn't gain a single bit of insight into Earth Vavian. I couldn't help but wonder, is the goddess just messing with me? Could it be that only my real body can break through this bottleneck by experiencing it firsthand? An hour later, I lay down in the pit myself. Looking at Chen Ziyu beside me, I said in a low voice, "You do it. I've timed this perfectly." I can hold my breath for the time it takes an incense stick to burn. No problem.
Once the incense is burnt down, whether I succeed or not,
Kick me out immediately.
At my urging, UJ slowly shoveled the dirt over my body. Darkness closed in.
The crushing weight of the soil pressed down on me.
I held my breath.
Waiting for the miracle of a breakthrough.
Above ground, Chen Ziwo stared intently at the burning incense.
But suddenly, the candle flame in the room flickered, turning into an eerie, cold green. When the incense stick had only burned down 1/3 of the way, it unexpectedly snuffed out on its own.
And UJ, who should have noticed it immediately,
should have frozen in place, unable to move a single muscle. Deep underground, I had long passed my limit. My lungs felt like they were going to burst. My mind spun with dizziness. My face turned a ghastly blue,
Beans bulging.
as I hovered on the very brink of suffocation. I struggled with all my might to break free, but my body wouldn't budge. It felt as if a 10,000-ton mountain was pinning me down. My strength drained away rapidly.
my vision went black.
I completely lost consciousness. Who knows how much time passed? A clap of thunder? Boom. Then torrential rain began to pour down. The candle flame flickered back to normal. Chiziu suddenly spun around. When she saw the extinguished incense, she instantly panicked. She clawed at the dirt like crazy with her bare hands. But the pit was completely empty. I was already long gone.
在我没语，直到有一天不能呼吸。
Under the extreme stimulation of being on the edge of life and death, my mind suddenly cleared, and the golden ancient seal characters of the great 5 elements of Asian arts, Earth chapter, began to manifest one by one. In an instant, the crucial bottleneck I had struggled with for so long finally cleared. The feeling of suffocation vanished instantly, and I became one with the earth. An earthy yellow glow enveloped my body, radiating from my very pores. It felt as if I could breathe freely deep within the soil. I actually succeeded. I had mastered the divine art of earth travel. With just a single thought, I could glide effortlessly underground, with neither soil nor solid rock able to stand in my way. Traveling 1,000 feet was as easy as walking on flat ground. Along the way, I even scooped up some gold and jewelry buried deep below. Worried that my beautiful companion would be anxious, I immediately tunneled back through the earth. But I accidentally lost my bearings and stumbled straight into the bedroom of a newlywed couple,
Catching the wealthy heiress and her new groom in a very intimate moment.
I didn't dare overstay my welcome, and instantly slipped away underground. I hurried back to Zenyan Temple. In the pouring rain, Chen Ziu was standing all alone in the courtyard. Her fingernails were caked with dirt, looking absolutely devastated. I walked over, holding an umbrella over her, and whispered gently, "I'm not dead, sister."
I'm back.
She trembled violently, tears streaming down and mixing with the rain, adding 3 words. "I'm sorry, Li Daoswan. I'm not worthy of being your Dao protector." She actually looked as though she wanted to leave. I grabbed her hand tightly and said with firm determination, "We agreed on 20 years and not a single second less. If you really feel that guilty, then let's add another 10 years to our contract." She lowered her eyes and nodded softly. I smiled, thinking to myself, now this beautiful lady won't ever be able to leave me. I helped wash her hands clean, and after asking further, I finally found out he didn't mean it. He had just lost his senses under the influence of some eerie power. It wasn't on purpose. A cold sweat broke out on my back. A demon was hiding in the temple, capable of silently controlling a mid-stage cultivator. This is incredibly dangerous. I immediately decided to pack up and leave the moment dawn broke. But before I could even finish writing, a frantic knocking shattered the silence. A panicked constable stood there, sweating with anxiety. "Master Li, quick, you have to come with me. Something deeply unsettling has happened to the magistrate's daughter and her new husband." My heart skipped a beat. I followed him and rushed straight to the magistrate's estate. The moment I stepped into the courtyard, festive red drapes were still hanging everywhere. The air was filled with wedding joy. But Magistrate Lu looked utterly miserable, his face lined with deep worry. The moment he saw me, it was like he had found a lifeline. I asked him what was wrong, but he only sighed, waving the guards away, and gestured toward the bedroom, indicating I should go in alone. Looking at his face, it was obvious they had run into a shameful scandal, too embarrassing to put into words. Inside, the magistrate's daughter sat on the edge of the bed, her clothes in disarray, weeping bitterly, and standing right there in the room were 2 identical grooms. The 2 of them were pointing at each other, screaming and cursing. Both screamed that they were the real husband and that the other was an imposter, a demon. I turned to Miss Lu and asked her what had happened. She was overwhelmed with shame and embarrassment, and hesitantly revealed the truth. On their wedding night,
The groom had gotten up to use the washroom. But not long after, he returned to the room and they shared an intimate moment. But just as their passion was peaking, another groom pushed the door open and walked right in.
Overnight, the newlywed bride was suddenly faced with 2 husbands.
A scandal of this scale. No wonder Magistrate Lu found it impossible to speak of.
The 2 grooms argued relentlessly. Even their birthmarks and memories were identical down to the smallest detail. I activated my Dharma eye
And summoned the demon-revealing mirror.
but as the light of the mirror fell upon the 2 of them,
Even the mirror can't detect a shred of demonic energy.
This demon's power is unfathomably deep.
Even the demon-revealing mirror is completely useless.
I made an excuse to go back and get my scriptures,
Hoping to seize the chance to escape.
but Magistrate Lu grabbed me in a death grip, pleading with me desperately that my mind was made up. This level 15 demon's power is completely unfathomable. There is no reason for me to risk my life. But just as I reached the entrance, a familiar figure walked into the courtyard.
A second Magistrate Lu appeared, and a cold shiver shot from the soles of my feet straight to the top of my head.
I knew then there was absolutely no escaping this mess.
My name is Xuan. Just a moment ago, I was in the magistrate's mansion, completely baffled by a real and fake groom and a real and fake magistrate, driving me crazy. With the demon-revealing mirror completely useless, I realized right then and there. This was a deadly trap set specifically for me. Using the excuse of fetching my magical tools, I activated my swift stride spell
And bolted for the city gates without looking back.
Out of the 36 stratagems, running away is definitely the best option. This evil entity's methods are far too bizarre.
There is no point in risking my life in a head-on fight. But just as I was about to step past the city gates,
a familiar figure came walking toward me.
wearing a purple Taoist robe with a wine gourd hanging from his waist. His long beard fluttered in the wind.
Who else could it be but my master, Zhang Yang?
Instantly, the weight was lifted from my chest. I let out a massive sigh of relief.
Master, you're finally back.
Master patted my shoulder and said calmly, I already know everything.
Leave it to me.
He looked toward the direction of the mansion and said in a deep, grave voice,
That mansion
is reeking of demonic energy.
I was filled with absolute admiration, as expected of my master.
He saw right through the illusion with a single glance. I immediately followed right behind him
As he invited me to head back with him,
I was even secretly looking forward to it.
thinking about how much we'd gain after slaying the demons.
And as we passed a tavern,
The rich aroma of wine wafted over.
I habitually glanced at the wine gourd hanging from my master's waist.
in that instant, my blood ran cold.
My master loves wine more than life itself.
He always carries a heavy stench of liquor on him.
But during our walk just now,
I didn't catch even a single whiff of alcohol from him.
I forced myself to stay calm, but my mind was in absolute turmoil.
The earth deity of Shasha village once said, there were 3 demons in total that massacred the village.
One disguised as Kuizhao Huayu.
One disguised as Magistrate Lu. Could the third one be this fake master in front of me? Without showing any emotion, I threw out a deadly bait.
Master, the new coffin you wanted has been bought.
Where are we going to bury my martial uncle?
The fake master paused for a moment, then casually replied, Let's wait until we subdue this demon.
My heart sank completely to the bottom.
There was no martial uncle at all.
My master bought that coffin to sleep in himself. This imposter couldn't read my complete memories, and finally exposed himself.
Behind my back, my hand secretly formed a spell gesture, preparing to escape immediately using my earth-burrowing magic. But in the next second,
The fake master grabbed my wrist in a vice grip.
his strength was terrifyingly immense. The master here.
Why would you need magic? Let's go.
The world spun.
And I was forcefully dragged back to that eerie courtyard. The sight before me made my skin crawl.
2 magistrate,
Luz and Miss Lu. They were all frozen in place, completely motionless. Only their eyes could convey their sheer terror. The fake master let go of me and walked over to Miss Lu. He gently lifts her chin.
A delicate, rare beauty.
But you're a clever one, aren't you?
You saw right through me on the way here. I like clever people. Summoning my Chixia sword in a reverse grip.
I point the blade right at him. What the hell are you?
Why are you pretending to be my master?
He chuckles softly.
Want to know who I am?
First, you must pass a test.
Find out who among these 4 is human.
And who is a demon? He suddenly grabs Miss Lu by the throat.
We'll use her life as the timer. If you can't find them before she suffocates, this beauty dies.
My immediate instinct is to turn around and bolt.
To hell with your game.
I'm not playing along.
But a split second later, the fake master pulls out a bead.
Inside, countless scorched souls are trapped,
Their agonizing wails shaking the very heavens. With one look, I see the old village chief and his little granddaughter, their spirits shattered.
Writhing in agonizing pain, the little girl looks at me weakly.
Taoist big brother.
It hurts so much. This is a soul-refining bead,
And I am going to refine the souls of Shasha village into a yin elixir.
the fake master sneers. You might not care about Miss Lu's life, but what about theirs?
furious. Boiling murderous intent surges in my eyes.
I was the one who killed your demon and snake demon. Come at me. They have nothing to do with this.
His grin widens.
Exactly. You guessed right. I could have killed you directly. But I prefer playing games. Now, choose.
Miss Lu's face turns a suffocating purple.
As she gasps for her final breath.
Inside the soul-refining bead, the demonic fire rages, and the villagers' souls are on the verge of melting away.
I can't wait any longer. I take a deep breath.
Kick a sudden powerful step forward and roar.
Stop!
I've made my choice.
I end Plazoyu and Luziani from my left.
And shielded them behind me.
These two are the real ones.
But the other two...
Are demons! Before my voice even faded, their demonic energy erupted.
Of course, black fur sprouted wildly.
As a hunched ancient monster revealed its hideous, true form, their eyes flared with murderous rage.
Master Jia clapped and laughed. Impressive! Very impressive.
You win. He released Miss Lu,
temporarily halting the torture of her soul. I instantly flung out a longevity talisman, purging the demonic energy clinging to the groom. Sheng, take them and get out of here. I balked. Evacuate the villagers. But as the two demons moved to block them,
A striking figure in red suddenly materialized to shield the way.
she stood tall, a powerful and imposing woman.
the chilling energy of her mid-stage yin spirit sweeping across the entire room. Instantly, the two demons hesitated. I called out,
I won! Release her! But Master Jia shook his head. I never said I'd release her just because you won. Though, I am curious.
How did you see through my disguise?
Even the demon revealing mirror was completely useless.
I slowly edged closer to him, trying to buy some time.
Your illusion spell is practically a divine power, I said.
I couldn't tell at first, but when I left, I had a sparrow keep watch on you.
And saw the two demons harboring murderous intent toward me, just to be safe.
I also lured in some ants.
Humans can be deceived, but ants rely on pure scent and instinct.
The ones they didn't dare approach.
We're bound to be the demons?
Master Jia clapped in genuine admiration.
But the next second his face darkened. A true genius.
But I'm still not letting her go.
Now, I thought,
I suddenly unleashed 3 clones,
firing 2 binding talismans straight at the 2 demons.
my Everclaim uncorked the 3-sword flask,
And a raging, monstrous fire erupted from it.
seizing the moment.
I lunged forward to grab the soul-refining spike on the table.
I got it. But Master Jia vanished like smoke.
My beautiful ghost ally immediately rushed forward to pin him down.
I laughed out loud,
Ready to escape.
but when I looked down,
What was in my hand was no soul-refining bead. It was clearly just a rock covered in dog crap. Master Jia held the real soul-refining bead in his hand.
Choke, crucial, true and false, real and fake.
Can you even tell the difference anymore? Did you think you could break free from my immobilization talisman?
Destroy my clones,
And corner me completely?
the stunning ghost faced Master Jia alone.
her dark energy surging, blotting out the sun like thick black clouds.
Master Jia spoke slowly and casually. In fact, that once-a-days, let the second game begin.
1 hour.
As the shadows close in,
If you beat me in 2 out of 3 rounds.
I'll let them go. He looked at the stunning ghost.
And licked his lips.
I'll play with you for this 1 hour.
You beautiful ghost.
Me. Refining you into a pill won't be any less potent than a divine elixir.
Her gaze grew as cold as ice. She turned to look at me.
Her eyes filled with deep worry.
The black-haired monster is in the early yin spirit stage.
And the hunchback monster is even in the mid-stage.
This is a battle to the death.
I clenched my Chixia sword, my knuckles turning white.
The energy pent up deep inside me exploded completely.
What I hate the most are scumbags who use innocent lives as bargaining chips.
I looked up at Chen Xiu.
My voice, dead calm,
Yet carrying a resolve
to wipe out every last demon. My lady.
Hold on just a bit longer.
Once I slaughter these two venomous demons,
I'll come help you.
This game with lives is the stakes.
From this moment on, I'm rewriting the rules.
My name is Li, Thoxwan,
Blocked in front by a murderous, evil yin god.
I'm blackpilled from behind by Master Jia holding the villagers' souls, with absolutely no way to retreat.
The killing intent in my heart completely erupted. The black-furred rat demon and the hunchbacked hedgehog spirit before me.
Didn't take a mid-stage idiot cultivator like me, seriously, at all.
They thought I was a dead man.
Kid.
prepare to die.
The black-furred brute lunged at me,
His demonic energy billowing like a massive python. The hunchbacked old man shot out black needles coated in instant-kill poison. This joint strike from two yin god-level demons was a guaranteed kill,
but they never expected that.
in a mere flash. I dissolved straight into the earth, vanishing without a trace.
Earth evasion.
The rat demon flew into a raging fit of anger, while the hedgehog spirit's face tensed up in alarm.
He didn't run. He wants to kill us.
Deep beneath the earth, I dove down nearly 1,000 feet, plucked a handful of my own hair, and instantly transformed them into 10 clones.
sharing a singular mind with my clones.
I activated both cloning and earth-walking divine abilities at once.
My countless clones emerged, armed with body freezing and 5 thunder talamats.
Surging upward like dragons rising from the sea.
This was a combat strategy I had meticulously designed. The Talisman Ocean Tactic.
Total carpet bombardment. On the surface, the two demons were still scanning the area on high alert. But in the next split second, they realized they were dead wrong. Countless figures burst through the soil, showering them with body-freezing talavimans like a torrential storm of golden rain. Though they fought back desperately, they were completely overwhelmed by the endless, relentless swarm of talismans.
The talismans slapped onto their bodies,
Freezing them instantly in their tracks. Seizing the split-second opening,
my real body materialized, slapping 5 thunder talismans directly onto them.
while summoning the wrath of heavenly thunder. I woke up in a literal hell, blasted awake by an explosion. The rat demon was struck head-on by my descending lightning.
The incredibly fierce lightning directly countered their demon aura.
The two demons were struck until their flesh split open. Their physical bodies cracked, and their demon energy completely dissipated. They unleashed miserable, agonizing screams.
They frantically tried to destroy my clones.
But unfortunately, my clones only have limited strength. Struggling through the endless barrage, the lightning kept coming, wave after wave, while dark clouds blotted out the sky. The entire world was drenched in a storm of lightning. The two great demons were worn down by me until they were covered in wounds, completely battered and exhausted.
Hundreds of feet underground,
I kept summoning my clones,
consuming a massive amount of spiritual energy.
but though I might lack other things,
I am definitely not short on talismans.
The moment my mana runs dry,
I just swallow a recovery talisman, and my longevity talisman instantly refills it.
I had already poured all my fortune into buying cinnabar and yellow paper.
Mass-producing talismans like an assembly line, until the talismans piled up like mountains in my 3 realms lake.
My master once said,
Spells are easy to learn, but divine abilities are hard to master.
use clones to distract the enemy.
Earth escape to hide yourself.
And talismans for heavy assault.
With the longevity talisman for endless stamina,
One person alone becomes an invisible army.
the rat demon, struck by the lightning, was driven completely insane.
He roared and revealed his true form.
A giant black-furred rat the size of a calf dug frantically toward the underground.
I'm going to swallow you alive.
The 4 golden guardians tried to stop him, but it was already too late. Deep underground, I sneered. Trying to fight someone who has mastered Earth escape underground?
That is pure suicide. I ordered all my clones to dive deep into the earth, surrounding this rat demon who had delivered himself right into my trap.
The deeper he dug, the more panicked he became.
For in every direction, he was surrounded by my clones,
Like a pathetic death row prisoner, the rat demon lunges in a desperate, crazed counterattack. But with my Earth-controlling divine powers, the clone moves as fast as a phantom.
He can't even land a single blow.
What follows is a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts.
Countless clones brandishing swords surround and hack away.
Blades flash in a blinding frenzy, slashing down relentlessly, stroke after stroke. The rat demon screams in agony as flesh and blood splatter everywhere.
Its insides spill all over the ground.
It struggles desperately to flee.
But there is absolutely no escape. Up on the surface, the hedgehog demon hears the screams, but dares not venture underground.
Until I rise from the ground, holding the rat's severed head, leaving him frozen in utter shock. I speak in a cold, indifferent voice,
1,461 cuts.
and I finally slaughtered him. The hedgehog demon lets out a tragic howl and shoots out his black quills in a desperate frenzy. But they only shatter one of my clones.
He looks over at Master Jia. confirming that the master has already subdued.
传奇酒，呼吸喘并钦定。
and is leisurely sipping tea. Big brother. Third brother is dead. Master Jia doesn't even lift an eyelid.
He simply points at the soul-refining pearl
And says indifferently, if he's dead, then he's dead. The designated hour is not yet up. The hedgehog demon feels as if struck by lightning, his entire body trembling. You're not my big brother. Master Jia gives a cold, subtle smile. Suddenly, a pair of hands erupts from the ground, tightly grabbing the hedgehog demon. The one who struck is none other than myself. And the moment the rat demon was slain, the demon subduing heavenly scroll, in my mind, burst with golden light.
for slaying the early Yin Soul Stage rat demon.
The reward is the Earth Element Golden Elixir. This elixir was handcrafted by Ji Xuan, the left Grand Immortal of the Supreme Ultimate, powered by the fiery energy of dragon veins
And refined, with divine soil as its core ingredient.
It allows me to instantly master the divine power of Earth. Without a second thought, I swallowed it whole.
The moment the golden elixir entered my belly, a surge of raw heat shot straight to my head.
I was instantly plunged into a state of sudden enlightenment, feeling as if I had merged with the Earth itself, witnessing eons of change pass by in a flash. Every single mystery of the Earth Scroll clicked perfectly into place. At this moment, my Earth-walking powers reached a whole new level.
Before, I could only travel underground.
But now, I can control the Earth itself. I can even drag a living enemy straight down into the depths.
I forcibly dragged the hedgehog demon deep underground,
Pulling in deeper and deeper.
the colossal force of the earth bore down on him from all directions, like 10,000 mountains crushing his body.
He reverted to his true hedgehog form, frantically shooting out black quills.
But they couldn't even graze me.
Mud poured into his eyes, nose, and mouth.
Crushing his bones and shattering his teeth. It couldn't muster even a fraction of his demonic power.
With him trapped in endless despair, I stepped forward, sword in hand,
And severed his head with a single strike. Raging flames erupted, incinerating his soul completely. Holding the crimson glow sword, shrouded in an earthy yellow glow, and surrounded by spiritual light, I slowly stepped out from beneath the earth.
As for those two Yin Spirit Realm great demons,
They were quickly slain by my blade,
Master Jia put down his teacup.
and gently clapped his hands.
A wild, dangerous glint in his eyes.
The seductive Spider Queen stood beside him,
Clutching his soul-refining bead.
This deadly game with human lives as the wager is far from over. But I am no longer the weak Lidaswan who could only hide and run.
With the Earth Golden Elixir in my hand, and the Earth itself at my command,
It's time for me to go on the offensive.